All right, so I've hit that live button. People should be seeing us live now. Let me know how everything is looking and sounding, guys. Is the camera adjusted correctly? No, it's not. It's no big deal. So this is the Honest Restart podcast. We do it usually on Sundays, but I needed to take a break this week, so I figured let's just do it later. Let's just do it today, Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm joined by my good friend Brandon from WhataboutNodnarb. His channel should be linked in the description below. How you doing, buddy? Why not just, podcast Tuesdays? Why not? So we're doing it on a Tuesday. There's a lot to talk about. I don't even think we're going to get to all the news today. I'll probably... Okay, I don't want to make any promises, but I may do something regarding that Pokemon Legends Arceus teaser tomorrow. Maybe some level of an analysis there. But tonight, we're going to be discussing several controversies and discussion points surrounding Metroid Dread, the game that came out not too long ago. You may have seen my video talking about how it's my favorite game of the year. Or if you haven't, that's okay, because it's a spoiler-filled video. But if you are willing to watch it despite that, check it out. It came out last Saturday. But we're also going to be talking about Nintendo Switch Online and its expansion pack, and how we now know about the pricing structure and the discussion or controversy surrounding that. We'll also be going into our thoughts about Animal Crossing and Happy Home Paradise, and we'll also be talking about how now there seems to be more of a discussion on not so much Switch Pro, but next-gen Switch. That narrative, that sort of series of rumors we've been getting is now transitioning to that. So we're going to be discussing all of that tonight. Okay, there's Brandon. They may be saying that you're mute. Let me see here. That's not how it was at first. I will fix that. Hold on. Thank you for letting me know, guys. That's why I ask how everything is looking and sounding in the beginning. Let me see if I can fix that here.
Okay.
All right. You guys, they should be able to hear you now.
Testing.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, chat? Is everything good? Are you out there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they can hear you now. Thank you guys for letting me know. Everything should be working correctly now. But Brandon, I had asked you, Brandon, how you doing? And I believe you said you were doing well.
Yes, I did. I did say I was doing well. And happy to talk on the podcast today.
Yeah, and now you are audible, so that's great. You guys should also be able to hear a little bit of background music as well, so let me know if the levels are okay, if Brandon sounds loud enough, or if he's too quiet, let me know that as well. Yes, I would appreciate that. But since I'm ready to check in the chat now, before we jump into the topics, let's say hello to everyone. D.E. Fox, hey there. Ginpachi, welcome. Nishan Kelkar, how you doing? You saying you beat Dread in a week and it was the best Switch game, and it's the best Switch game of the year. I'm pretty much in the same boat as you. Yeah, I beat the game very quickly. I 100%ed it in normal mode. I am very, very deep into my run in hard mode. I'm already fighting the final boss. Might wait a little bit to finish hard mode just so I can focus on a few other things, but I've enjoyed the game thoroughly, and I do not plan to be done with Metroid Dread after I beat hard mode. I may start focusing on cutting down on my time even more so. And my hard mode run is faster, is a fair bit faster than my 100% normal mode run. It should be. So, but my next run, I will probably try and... We'll see what happens exactly, but I may strive to maybe get under 4 hours in normal. We'll see how that goes. But, I even mastered is probably a strong word. I managed to accomplish the one-shot kill on Experiment Z57. I'm not going to explain exactly what that is to avoid spoiling those who may not know. But basically, there's a technique that one-shots a late-game boss, and if you know who it is, you would have known what I just said. If you don't, you don't. But I managed to do that, and that was pretty darn cool. It involves a trick with the speed boost and shine spark, and it was... I managed to do it. I was pretty excited about it. So yeah, there's a lot of sequence breaking, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do to speed up your runs. There's definitely going to be a lot of content made, not necessarily from me because I'm not a speedrunner, but in general, you're going to probably see a lot of speed runs of this game. We're already seeing them, people trying to get down to an hour and a half. We're seeing a lot of sub 2 hour runs. I'm going to strive for a sub 4 hour run. I think that'll be my goal. And I think if I do that, I unlock, because you get like concept art when you beat the game.
Yeah.
So I think if I can manage to get under 4 hours.
Sub 3, but I guess
maybe there is. Maybe I gotta strive for even greater than that. So for sure, it's neat because like when I did my first run on normal mode, I was very kind of confused as to where everything was. But in my second run, there were still moments where I was like, oh, where do I go? I forget. But then it comes to like, oh yeah, this, and this. So now I kind of have like almost a working memory of the order of power-ups I should get. And I'm just talking about the normal sequence, right? So like, even if I just go for the normal sequence, I bet I could, just kind of go point to point to point to point a lot more quickly with less sort of hurdles, just, going through. And because I already have a decent understanding of the patterns and I've been able to beat the game on hard mode, if I were to do this on normal, I imagine I'll be able to kind of blitz through rather quickly, not really need to worry about getting like those extra power-ups and things, because I won't really need it. Because if I can beat the game in hard mode, I probably don't need to get extra power-ups and stuff to survive things in normal mode. So yeah, it's fun just kind of getting better at the game, learning more about the game. And I am excited to see more of the concept art, because if Samus Returns, the previous game that Metroid team worked on, is anything to go by, it could hint at things for the story and potentially what they may be working on in the future. So who knows? We did see them put like a Metroid Fusion concept art. It may have just been, just say, hey, look, here's a concept art of Metroid Fusion. Not Metroid Fusion, Zero Mission. But who knows? Maybe they remake a Zero Mission next. That'd be awesome. Zero Mission is already a remake, but to see that with the Metroid Dread engine, that'd be pretty darn cool.
I mean, seeing any Metroid remade in the Metroid Dread engine would be pretty cool.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. But if I had to pick one, I would love to see Zero Mission.
Yeah. I remember before Dread was announced, there was a lot of rumors that they were going to remake Super Metroid. So maybe they'll do that.
Yeah, maybe Super Metroid. That's another option. Obviously Fusion as well. Heck, they could remake the remake of Samus Returns too, because, I don't think they'll do that for a long time, but they could. So, but I if I had to place my pick, I would love to see a remake of Zero Mission, because that includes like Zero Suit Samus for certain sections. So that'd be nice to see. But moving on with the chat here. Isonic, hello. Super Chris, hello there. Yes, the rules are simple. Don't be a prick. I agree. Lord Vader, thank you for letting us know that Brandon was muted. Ronnie Fazio, hello there. Divine Zenith, hello. Ev Kirk, what's up? Hey Andres, are you getting Pokemon BDSP? I was planning on it, but canceled my pre-order because it doesn't look good in my opinion. So, it's I don't know, to be totally honest with you. There are parts of me that want it because I really enjoyed Generation 4 Pokemon Pearl, is one of my favorite Pokemon games, even though there is some very slow-paced aspects to it. Those things have been rectified in BDSP, Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. So, if you want to sort of relive Gen 4, then I don't think Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl is a bad way to do it. There's a lot of quality of life improvements there, and it is aesthetically pleasing from what I've seen, even though it takes more of a childish sort of chibi kind of look.
I prefer it to Let's Go's art style.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, I do prefer it over Let's Go. I give that I agree with. Now, with Let's Go, I was okay with it as a one-off,
Right.
but I don't, in general, don't want that to be a aesthetic moving forward for Pokemon. And Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, it's not exactly like Let's Go. It does still kind of take a more cutesy kind of look, right? So that is a minor turnoff for me personally, but still, like, you know, you can still, like, that's just like just like the chibi aspect of it. If you think about it, it really just kind of trying to show off how the games looked back in the day, but, you know, with a sort of 3D HD kind of look. And I guess what's weird is that because back in the day that chibi style was in sprites, and it was sort of a, you know, there was this assumption that, you know, you have to kind of have a little bit more of an imagination as you look at the game because it had a simplistic style. Now we look at it and it's just like, okay, well, this is a chibi look, right? Like, we kind of read it differently now because of the progression in technology. Yeah. So there's like a different interpretation now just because of our standards. But that is kind of what they're trying to replicate, though. So I'm a little divided on the aesthetics, but overall, it's still, I would say, aesthetically pleasing. So, you know, that's not really my big issue with the game. My big issue with the game is just, it doesn't seem like there's anything new. Nothing substantial, at least. Like, yes, the Underground seems to have some expansion of content there. The Pokemon contests look pretty fun now. I'm not saying there isn't new things there, but there aren't any new Pokemon. There aren't any new regional forms, nothing like that. And there's no sort of focus on competitive play. These are things that sort of keep me with Pokemon. Getting new Pokemon, expanding the competitive side of things, the metagame, that doesn't really seem to be here. And so that's kind of a big element that's missing for me personally. If I were to be playing Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, it would be solely to relive Gen 4. No other reason. So that's where I'm like, there's less of a reason for me to buy this Pokemon game compared to other Pokemon games. So for example, the Gen 3 remakes, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, that was where the metagame took place. That was the next evolution of the series. There were more forms added, new Pokemon, new mechanics and moves. And that was an exciting thing to see. We even had like the 3D open environment to explore with Latios and Latios. That was really cool, even though it was just like a side thing. It was fun.
Yeah. And the graphics were on par with the current Pokemon generation.
Great point. Exactly. It was the next main big thing to play. It was the most evolved version of Pokemon at that point in time for the main core series, and that's where we played the competitive side of things. That's where we played VGC or singles, or, you know, it's what it was based off of, at least, and that's where the tournaments were. So that's where I was at. Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl is just a segment of that interest. You know, it doesn't carry everything that I love about Pokemon in one package, so it's less desirable for me. But if you just want to relive Generation 4, you don't care about the competitive side of things, you don't care about online play, then, you know, maybe this is still a good deal for you. It does look fun, but also Shin Megami Tensei 5 is coming out just a week before. It's a big RPG coming out on the Switch. I might prioritize that. So that's just a me thing. I'm not entirely sure. I may get both. I may choose Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl over.
You got Legends Arceus as well, so if you want your Pokemon fixed, but you actually want something that's new, like really new, then you're going to want to play that. So I guess there's kind of something Pokemon for everybody.
Yeah, Legends Arceus is definitely where it's at. I mentioned it earlier, but there's new Pokemon being added to Legends Arceus. And that's a new adventure. It's a big step for this series. Sure, it's still not where the competitive side of things are, but it's an evolution for the franchise in a lot of ways. They're experimenting with a lot of mechanics. There's a new experience there, and that's exciting to me. Yeah. Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl is reliving an old experience while not really evolving any of the older things about Pokemon, really. And Legends Arceus is, you could argue, like a side thing, but it's adding new Pokemon. It's progressing the series, is moving forward, and I want to play through that. And I do think a lot of the elements we'll see in Legends Arceus will carry over into the next generation, the future of the actual mainline series. Right. So it's really exciting to me. Just, you know, even forgetting about just my sort of personal preferences for the Pokemon series I wanted to see from it, like let's just pretend I'm not a Pokemon fan. Just looking at it as like a game, a Nintendo published game coming out for Nintendo Switch, I see a fairly substantial adventure game coming that's looks pretty fun. So I'm into it for that reason alone. Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, if you exclude my, the fact that I'm a Pokemon fan, it just looks like a basic chibi sort of old RPG style game, and that's way less exciting to me than Legends Arceus. So I'm definitely way more into Legends Arceus, but I might give Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl a try. But I'm not. We'll see. We'll see how things play out once the game actually releases. I'm assuming you have nothing else to say on this, Brandon, because you're not a Pokemon fan.
No, I don't really. No, I mean, I'm excited somewhat for Arceus. It was interesting when I heard that the Pokemon company confirmed it was more like Monster Hunter than Breath of the Wild in terms of its open world, which didn't bother me at all. I kind of think that that's a fine way to do it. As long as there's big areas that you can explore, I don't necessarily need them to all be connected. That's fine. If it's like Monster Hunter, that's fine. But yeah, that's kind of where the evolution of the series is going. That's where I'm seeing. Because, I mean, I kind of am that scenario you just mentioned where you're not a Pokemon fan, you're just looking at it as a Nintendo game.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. January's not that far away. We're approaching the end of October. Like, we are, what, like 3 months away at most? I know it comes out in January, but what's the exact day?
I don't remember.
I'm going to look it up right
now.
now.
The 14th or something?
The end of January. So we're a little bit over 3 months away. 3 months and a week, basically. We're 3 months and a week. So we're close. We're definitely close. But moving on with the chat here. Let's see. All right, yeah. I saw a number of you brought up that Brandon was mute, so thank you for pointing that out, guys. That was big. Thank you very much. Robeer 2. I hope that new fans that Metroid Dread brought into the franchise jumped into the train of hype and play Metroid Prime Trilogy or buy Metroid Prime 4. Oh, yeah. I think Metroid Dread is doing everything right, really. At least as a game itself. Well, we're going to get into the controversies in a bit, but Metroid Dread has an 89 on Metacritic. It is buzzing on social media. It's breaking all sort of sales records for the Metroid franchise. Things are looking very, very promising right now. I think we're in exciting times for the Metroid fan base. I think Metroid Dread is the beginning of some great things. You could argue that Samus Returns and Prime 4 were the beginning, but Metroid Dread, I think, is the beginning of a more consistent... Yeah, of things actually releasing consistently. Like, I expect to see something maybe next year, and the year after that. I think we're going to see more consistent Metroid releases, and I think Metroid Dread is just the beginning. See it again?
Fingers crossed for the Prime remake.
Right, yeah, exactly. That Prime remake that's been rumored. I think that could come out next year. But, with Dread, like, there's just so much to say on Dread. There really is. Metroid Dread, I think, has done a lot of things. I think it's doing a great job of showing people that a 2D game can be a big deal. Metroid Dread, in my eyes, and I think in the eyes of many gamers at this point, is like Nintendo's sort of big flagship game for this holiday. Yes, it came out early October. Technically, it doesn't count as the holidays. But it is the game Nintendo's pushing and marketing seemingly more than any other. And it's changing things. I think there's going to be a lot more Metroid fans after this. A lot of people are starting to see that, hey, even though this is a 2D game, it's a big deal. It's worth that $60 price tag. This is a showcase kind of game. It's visually pleasing by a long shot. It has some very impressive set piece kind of moments. There's some pretty crazy story beats. I don't want to spoil anything of this particular discussion, at least not now. maybe we'll see. If I'm gonna spoil anything, I'll wait toward the end of the podcast and I'll let you guys know. But there's just some incredible moments in this game. If you're a longtime Metroid fan, you're gonna be floored by it. Metroid Dread is, I mean, I mentioned it earlier. I had a 46-minute recording just talking about how much I loved Metroid Dread, and that's partially why I barely had any content come out last week, because it took me a long time to record that, because the longer the recording, the harder it is on my editing software. I actually have to clean up my computer. My hard drives are kind of getting filled up. But point is, like, it was a long thing to edit, and it's only one reason why I didn't have that much content coming out last week. But point is, it was a lot. It was a lot for me to say, and I still feel like I'm scratching the surface here. I am excited about Metroid Dread. It's just a really, really, really good game. I think it's going to be one of those games that's going to age gracefully. I have a hard time seeing this game not aging well. Like, I think it has an art style that we can look at 10 years from now and be like, oh, it still looks good. Because while it does have like a pseudo-realistic look, it's not like hyper-realistic. It's like more like a surreal kind of look. And it's not like super heavy textures. There's a lot of like...
Oh yeah, a lot of the textures are very simple.
Simple and clean. I think people are gonna look fondly upon this game years down the road.
I think the lighting is the most impressive part of the game, just in general. I think it's what brings everything together, because you're right, the textures are, I mean, they're not terrible, but they're not amazing either. Not gonna blow your mind. And a lot of the geometry,
by design, they're simplistic,
ridiculously complex, but the lighting just comes together, and I think pulls everything in and really sells that atmosphere really well. Gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, I could just go on and on about Metroid. I love, like, the cutscenes. They're dynamic. Like,
Oh, that's the coolest part of the whole game for me.
You shoot, and when you're shooting like bosses, and you like do a parry, you get into a cutscene that you're like, you jump on top of a boss and you're like shooting at it. You control what you shoot. You can shoot missiles. You can use your storm missile. You can use your charge beam. You could use just random rapid shots. Like, you are in control of that. So there's a level of control that still maintains even during these like quick time event cutscenes. That's a really cool element of the game, and it just sort of adds to like this set piece of the game. It sort of adds to, just how impressive the game looks. It's an ambitious game. Like, even though it's 2D, it's an impressive 2D game. They did a lot there. It's just fun. It's a really, really fun game. But we'll probably talk. We're going to talk about more Metroid Dread in a little bit. But let me kind of continue on the chat here. Sammy, maybe Port Science Returns as well. A lot of people didn't play that. Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
We could.
That game would look fine enough, just like in HD. I mean, not compared to Dread, but, on its own.
Yeah. It's just, it's gonna, I don't know. It'll look significantly worse. Even if it's upscaled to HD with cleaned up textures. Because it's 3DS polygons, like, it's just, the geometry is just gonna look... It's fine. Like, as long as people understand what it is, they'll still probably enjoy it. Lord Vader saying, hit button like, guys. Yeah, if you guys don't hit the like button, I'd appreciate that. For sure. Get more people to see this stream. Giancarlo added me. Hype for cooking and Animal Crossing New Horizons. Yeah.
Yes.
Cooking.
That was a cool feature. Cooking and farming.
Yeah, you're gonna have to... I watched like a 10-minute segment on the free update, and then the 10-minute like sort of trailer on the DLC. But Brandon, you're definitely going to be kind of carrying the conversation with Animal Crossing today, because I know you're a big Animal Crossing fan.
You've seen all the content. I don't know how they have it laid out differently in the videos, but the trailers, I'm pretty sure they just took the first half of the direct where it was talking about the free DLC, chopped it up, threw it into a video, and then took the second half and threw it into a separate video. So I'm pretty sure you just saw the direct in 2 parts. Yeah,
I mean, it was a 20-minute direct, right, basically? So, yeah. Super Chris, back when I played Pearl, I lost to Elite Four because I was poorly prepared. D. Fox, my whole team got bodied by Gliscor. Yeah, you know, I never actually played Platinum, I played Pearl, so if Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl has like a lot of the Platinum content, that does kind of compel me to maybe give it a try. So for that reason, I may, you know, bite the bullet there and go for it. Ronnie Fazio, hey man, hope you are well. I've been playing Shin Megami Tensei 3 and I'm enjoying it. I'm definitely getting 5 in November. From everything I see of Shin Megami Tensei 5, it looks like a pretty darn cool RPG. Like I'm definitely keeping my eyes on that game. I think there's a good chance I pick it up as well. Timing, really, it just comes down to time and funds, because I'm definitely interested.
Yeah, I need to look into that game more. But from a cursory glance of what we've seen in like E3 and in direct stuff, which is not very much because there's not marketing this game. There hasn't been anything they've showed that really made me look good and be like, wow, I really want to play this. But at the same time, the graphics are really cool. The battle system seems fine. It's an RPG. I probably will like it, so I just need to look more into it and see if I want to get it.
Yeah. I mean, watch the Treehouse stuff. It's solid. It's solid stuff.
True.
Yeah.
I didn't see the Treehouse stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Let's see here. Burt Mellon, Metroid will be back on the menu again, not just Prime 4, but also 2D Metroid will continue. And that's the exciting thing about what what Mercury Steam accomplished with Metroid Dread. It's not like, again, there's always been this narrative that 2D games just aren't as cool or as ambitious or as big of a deal as 3D games. And I feel like to some extent there's still some truth there. Like when Metroid Prime 4 comes, like that's probably, you know, that's gonna feel more like more like that Breath of the Wild moment for the Metroid series. But that doesn't mean that 2D games can't be amazing games. That doesn't mean a 2D game can't be one of your favorite games. There's a chance that Metroid Prime 4 may not even review as well as Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread has an 89 on Metacritic, which is really high. Like, Metroid Dread could be a game that wins a lot of Game of the Year nominations, maybe even some Game of the Year awards. Actually, I think someone was asking, Giancarlo asked me a little bit later down the chat, do you think Metroid Dread can win Game of the Year 2021? Honestly, I feel like it would be a tremendous mistake for the Video Game Awards. We're talking about the Video Game Awards, right? Because there's a whole bunch of Game Award shows, but the Video Game Awards, if it's not even nominated for Game of the Year, I'm gonna be crying foul. I'm gonna be crying foul because in my eyes, Metroid Dread is a better game than Monster Hunter Rise, which also may deserve a nomination, just for the record. It's a better game than Resident Evil Village, which I think has a good chance of getting a nomination, and it absolutely is a way better game than what's Cyberpunk. Like that's not that. There's a chance that game gets nominated.
Well, I guess that was technically within the window, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah. And maybe my timing's off there, but I think it is.
I thought that came out in like October of last year.
Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Let me see.
I don't know. Don't ever trust me for time slots for things I don't ever remember.
Oh yeah, no, it shouldn't even be. I don't know why I even brought it up. I think I heard other people talking about it. That's why. It said the initial release date was last year, September.
Nothing came out. Oh, Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, Ratchet and Clank.
This year.
Yeah,
which was really good. I don't know if it'll be Game of the Year or not. It's kind of a more niche, title, I guess. Not super niche, but at the same time, it's not like super popular either.
How are the reviews for that?
Pretty good from what I remember. I still haven't gotten to play it.
Very good, yeah. 88 on Metacritic.
PS5. Yeah. People really liked that game.
Yeah,
and it is probably the biggest showcase of like the PS5 at the moment, just in what it can do with all its next gen features. So that was a really cool game. I wouldn't mind if that won Game of the Year. But I don't know if it will. I'm just trying to think of what even is like Halo's not going to be there because that comes out December 4th.
Yeah, I mean, what else would it be?
Microsoft literally has nothing.
Resident Evil Village has an 84 on Metacritic. right?
Resident Evil Village, people think it's pretty good, but I don't think most people thought it was amazing.
Guys in the chat, is there anything else that would probably be in that category? Well, I think Monster Hunter Rise should be in that category.
Right.
And let's check that out. What was Monster Hunter Rise's Metacritic? Game Awards don't necessarily pay attention to Metacritic, by the way. Just putting that out there. Monster Hunter Rise at 88 on Metacritic. Metroid Dread's at an 89. Okay, so we're talking about some of the best games that have come out this year, and Metroid Dread has a higher score than them. So I think what's gonna be nuts is if a 2D game wins Game of the Year.
That would be awesome. I want something that's not just the generic most like basically popular thing to win. It's like, please.
Yeah, I'm.
But to be honest, I don't even know what that would be this year because there's no like just basic games. Well, like if Monster Hunter won, that's pretty awesome. If Ratchet and Clank won, that's also pretty awesome. And if Dread wins, then that's awesome too.
Are we missing something?
Like, there's gotta be other games. I just don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure there are other games, but
there would have been God of War and Horizon Forbidden West, but those got delayed. So PlayStation has nothing but Ratchet. I think Miles Morales came out before the deadline. Because I believe it was nominated for things last year. So I don't have that. Yeah, I don't know.
Alright, my opinion, Metroid Dread absolutely needs to be a nomination. And I actually think it probably should win Game of the Year. But I know how these things go. I know that there's a tremendous amount of bias. I know that people have a certain idea of what should win Game of the Year. So it's probably going to be Resident Evil Village. But
I don't think anybody agrees that Resident Evil Village deserves Game of the Year.
No, I'm not saying it actually will be Resident Evil Village. I don't know. I really don't. I think there's a chance that they do honor what deserves it. Like the Game Awards may buy into that narrative. They may buy into the Metroid Dread narrative, this 2.5D game, this revival of the Metroid franchise. Like, they may buy into that, and they may really like the story of, hey, look at this old franchise coming back, a Spanish studio putting it together, and it shows that a 2D, 2.5D kind of game can be the Game of the Year. Like, that is a really nice sort of story there, right? So they may buy into that, because this is a little political. I'm gonna be totally frank with you. Like, it's the Game Awards is a little bogus. Just gonna be frank. Like, it's not like I mean, I'm talking about it because I still care, but
why do you care?
Why do I care?
The announcements. You don't care because of what wins, yada yada yada.
Well, I mean,
if it was just a game show, would you watch it?
No, I would not. I would absolutely not. But I'll also say that I want Metroid Dread to get recognition.
Yeah, it's nice when your favorite thing gets a award anywhere.
Yeah, even I mean, I also want Monster Hunter Rise to get recognition. Metroid Dread and Monster Hunter Rise are my two favorite games of the year. So, you know, I want them both to be nominated. And according to Metacritic, they probably both should be nominated. So, you know, and they both have sold really well on Switch. Like, it's not like, you know, they're like fringe titles that just reviewed well, like or niche. Like, they're both very strong selling games. I mean, Metroid Dread just came out, but all signs are pointing towards very strong sales, to my point. But we'll see with that. Let's see here. Puff Jake, I'm now a Metroid fan because of Dread. Puff Jake, definitely Nintendo's truly mature franchise. I mean, it's not rated M, right? But it is certainly their own. I mean, Nintendo's Bayonetta, technically. Sort of. I know they don't own Bayonetta.
That's their M. But
that is a franchise a series is published by Nintendo that comes out only on Nintendo. And that is actually rated M, right? But Samus is owned by Nintendo, and it will always be a part of Nintendo. It's like Mario and Zelda, and it does have more mature themes, a more darker sort of look and feel to it. It does have all those horror elements. Consistently rated teen, but it is more maturely themed, I guess you could say. Yeah, and I'm glad you're now a part of the Metroid fan base. Welcome. I think you will come to love the series because they're pretty much every game in the series is high quality. The mainline ones, at least, save for Other M, which I still liked, but that's a whole other. We're not opening up that can of worms.
I've been seeing the hot takes all over Twitter.
Yeah, although you could argue that that's a controversy, one of the many controversies surrounding Metroid Dread, but this kind of sort of goes to show you there's been a lot of conversational points about Dread this last week or so, which just sort of points to the popularity of Dread, which is great. And we're getting into that a bit, but I do want to kind of get through the chat here. Let me see here. Sean Kelker, I'm on the phone with Nintendo customer support, and their whole music is Hyrule Field from Ocarina of Time. That is hype. That is very hype.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was on hold with a company recently, and I swear their hold theme sounded like the menu screen on Metroid Prime.
Say it again.
The hold theme sounded like the main menu theme for Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
Kind of all the weird alien noises.
Yeah.
It sounded just like that. And I was like, what did they just rip Metroid Prime off? I'm confused.
That'd be awesome. I'm kind of excited, like, just thinking about the Game Awards. Like, what if, like, they had a trailer opened up with that opening theme and they announced the Metroid Prime remake at the Game Awards?
Be dope.
That would be really dope. I don't know if it'll happen there, but maybe.
Metroid Prime, first Metroid game I've played. One of the few that I've played. I'll play it again. Remade. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Josh Dewar, hope I pronounced your name right. Still disagree about the $60 price. Got the game last Friday and I just beat it today. Just under 16 hours at 42%. There's some quality of life improvements that is needed to make it more appealing to the masses. So I'm gonna give you some pushback. One, if your game is saying it took you 16 hours to get to 42%, that probably means you actually spent more, like 20 to 25 hours playing the game. Because those 16 hours do not include when you pause the game and you're looking at the map. It does not include every time you've died. So every fight you failed and have to go back at it again, none of that time is included. So there's actually a lot of time that you don't know about that's not actually documented with that play time. So we could be talking about a 20 to 25 hour experience you actually have there, and you only got to 42% completion on normal mode.
I'm not gonna lie, you're slow. From what I've seen on Twitter, you're not.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's slow. I'm not gonna say it's slow.
I'm just messing with this guy.
No, but the point is that that's actually a sizable amount of time compared to other games like Resident Evil Village. People beat that in like 8 hours. You know, like
I think I beat Metroid Prime in like 15 hours.
Yeah, so I don't really. Yeah, I don't.
I just don't think time is a good way of measuring how much money something should be worth. Always. Now, if it's like
something to consider.
2 hours, like it can be. If it's like 2 hours and you're charging $60, like yeah, maybe that's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But other than the extremes, like I'm perfectly fine paying $60 for a 10 to 20 hour experience.
Yeah.
I played my favorite game, one of my favorite games to come out on the Switch, probably top 3, maybe top 5, Astral Chain. I played that game, I think, 25 hours, and I pretty much beat literally everything in the game except there's some, like, optional stuff you can get after the end, and I was like, whatever, I don't want to do that, because it was just grinding, and that game was $60, and I was perfect. I was more than happy with the time I put into that. And I did literally everything you could do, almost. It was only 25 hours, so not every game has to be super long. Sometimes when a game's longer, it's actually worse because they don't always have the development time to put in 30, 40 hours of actually all.
Sometimes I don't want a game to be that long though. Like sometimes I want to be able to experience the experience in a reasonable amount of time. It depends on what it is.
You go to watch a new anime and you realize there's 10 seasons and all 30 episodes
Yeah.
each, and you're like, maybe I should. I don't know if I can.
I don't think you should always drag on the story. I think you know, sometimes less is more. So, you know, I think it ultimately comes down to the impact and experience it has on you. And we just talked about the timing a little bit. You know, you probably actually spent more like 20, 25 hours in the game. And compared to a lot of our $60 games, that's par for the course, really. But then let's also consider this. Metroid Dread was designed to be a highly replayable game. We mentioned earlier how there's a lot of areas to sequence break or speed run. The game rewards you for playing through it again. That's why they have that game time at the end, because they want you to go back at it again and try to go at it faster. Maybe choose a different path. Sequence break a little bit. There's actually a lot of tricks that the designers, the developers put into the game to reward sequence breaking and speed running. We mentioned before how you can actually acquire some power-ups early, like the Morph Ball Bomb, and that actually gives you a way to kill Kraid, one of the main bosses in the game, far more quickly, and there's an additional cutscene to it when you use the Morph Ball Bomb. So, like, they actually designed certain sequence-breaking moments into the game because the game has been designed with this in mind, to break sequences, to speedrun, to do the game out of order, to replay it. So, this game is designed with replayability in mind, a lot more so than other games. So if you're only,
that's just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
The idea that that Nintendo would actually put in specific cutscenes and special little treats for the player to sequence break the games in ways that at surface level you're looking at, you're like, did they even know this was in here? But they must have known because they put this cutscene.
Right.
It's crazy.
Exactly. They did know.
I think just it's Nintendo just took this game and they did so much more with it than we even thought. Like it's so much more than just a new 2D Metroid. And
I actually feel like this game,
all they really needed to do is make a good new 2D Metroid, but they went so much farther and just made something truly special.
I think this is the kind of game that I think we'll look upon it as a masterpiece. Now, I know some people may not like the use of that word because perhaps that suggests perfection. There's no such thing as perfection. Some of the greatest games of all time have tons of issues. Breath of the Wild, it's one of my favorite games ever. It has more Game of the Year awards than any other game in history. And yet Breath of the Wild is a number of things that can be improved upon.
I will game longer than any other game ever, because there's, as much as there's good things about it, there's also ways to complain.
Yeah.
As we have done. Well, not complain, but
nitpick.
Discuss.
Nitpick.
Yeah, nitpick. That's a better word.
Yeah, but it's going back to Metroid Dread. When I say masterpiece, it's just something that feels very complete, all-encompassing. The story is very satisfying. The gameplay feels satisfying. The visuals are satisfying. It's impressive. The one thing I can say about Metroid Dread that I would consider a valid criticism would be the musical score. And I'm not saying the musical score is bad. It's not bad. There are some moments in the game that are like, oh, I'm vibing with this. And there are other, like, certain cutscenes where the music plays and, you know, you get elated. There are those moments in the game, but it's not like, say, for example, like some of the scores in Metroid Prime where we kind of really love to use them. Like, for example, in this podcast, I'm using the Town Overworld, music, because it's something that it's iconic music, right? Like, there isn't iconic music in Metroid Dread or new scores, not a lot of it at least, but it doesn't really need it. A lot of it's more ambient, a lot of it's more just, you know, to fit the environment, and it works. Like, it's not distracting, it's just kind of like not memorable, I guess, if that makes any sense. But point is, though, this game overall is a joy to play. It's a joy to replay multiple times. So just going back to your point, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, Josh, but I think, you know, when you compare the amount of time that most $60 games take, and you think about how Metroid Dread really is par for the course, when you really break it down, you consider that the game time does not factor in all the other little things I mentioned before. And this game is very replayable. It's designed for replayability and sequence breaking and speed running. And you actually can win unlockable concept arts that can tease things about the story and maybe things to come in the future. So yeah, I think honestly it's worth the price tag. It's a showcase kind of game. There's some incredible set pieces here. That's how I feel about it. But everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Charles Trudell. I have a difficult question. If Mercury Steam don't change their ways on how they treat their employees, are you okay we don't get another 2D Metroid for 5 years? Okay, I'm gonna put a pin on that question. It's a great question because that ties into one of the controversies surrounding Metroid Dread. So we're gonna get to that. I'll come back to your question, I promise. I just want to catch up with the chat real quick, and then we'll get to that in a moment. Let me see here. Actually, let me see. I'm gonna just check a few ads here, and then we'll get to that question. Giancarlo. The possible nomination for Game of the Year is probably going to be Ratchet & Clank, Rift Apart, Metroid Dread, Monster Hunter Rise, and Resident Evil Village. Yeah, basically what we discussed. Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything else? I'll check the chat in a bit. Brandon, if you see anything, let me know.
Returnal? Did that come out this year?
Oh, maybe that one.
Game.
Yeah, that's another one. I actually probably should play that.
When I get a PS5, that's definitely one of the games.
It's 85 on Metacritic.
Not bad.
Yeah, so that I can see them doing it for that one. So that's another. Yeah. Ronnie Fozzie, do you remember how Jedi Fallen Order was in the Game Awards last year, despite it being a 2019 game that missed the deadline? I like to see Immortals Phoenix Rising get a nomination personally. Okay, because that came out like December or something. I don't remember all the dates here. I don't think that one's gonna get it, but I could be mistaken.
What was the reason it was in it?
It came out late December. Metacritic 77. I don't see it getting a nomination. Not that it's not a good game. It just
it's an okay game. It's like a Genshin Impact kind of. It's a basic game. It's Ubisoft-ified Breath of the Wild, pretty much.
Nishan Kelker, have you? Sorry, Randy, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was done.
Oh, okay. Nishan Kelker, have you played Samus Returns? Wondering if I should play that or AON2R. Well, AON2R is an unofficial release. Not saying it's not good. I have seen a little bit of AON2R. I haven't played through it its entirety, so I can't speak for that fully. But I can tell you that Metro Samus Returns is a really good game. It was one of my favorite games on 3DS. Definitely, I think if you have a 3DS, you should give Samus Returns a try. It's a very, very good game. Metroid Dread is better, but Samus Returns is a good game leading up to Metroid Dread. I would say the best game to play before you play Metroid Dread would actually be Metroid Fusion. So from a gameplay perspective, you play Samus Returns, I suppose, right. But from a story perspective, you should play Fusion. If you play both, it sets up Metroid Dread very well. So I would consider playing both of those games if you haven't already. They're all really good. Sweet Life Duo, Brando, my game of the year is Tales of Arise so far 2021. I've heard of that. I don't know how.
Heard it exists. I have no idea what it's about.
It is reviewed quite favorably, 87 on Metacritic. Okay. So that's saying it's a. I guess I take it's an RPG. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like an anime style RPG. I'm seeing a trailer for it now. Looks cool. That's something to consider. Paco Salvador, I think this is well said. Even if the game is short, it doesn't matter. What matters is the enjoyment you had with the game. And my experience of Metroid Dread has been special. It's been very special.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, but let's now let's jump into the first official topic of the night. We've been sort of touching on it already. Oh, shout out to Yellow Kazoo. Hey, how you doing? But let's see here. Going back to this question from Charles Shradell. So I'm gonna reread it again. The difficult question: if Mercury Steam don't change their ways on how they treat their employees, are you okay? With us not getting our 2D Metroid for 5 years. So I'm not okay with us not getting another 2D Metroid for 5 years, but I also think that I mean, if we have to wait 5 years, is it that bad?
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. Like, if we get another game of the quality of Metroid Dread 5 years from now, but in between we get a Metroid Prime remake, we get a Metroid Prime 4, we get a Metroid spin-off, that's not that bad. Like, you know, that's
not really bad at all.
No. That's assuming there's other Metroid games in between.
4 years to make Dread?
Something like that. Yeah, I think we heard it was like 4 years. But to the point of the reason why this is brought into question is because there were complaints. A little longer
to make the next one if they're making it for next gen Switch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think it'd probably take about the same amount of time.
Yeah, I guess it depends.
Like, I don't think if you add a year every time you move on to another next generation system, like, you know, they move from 3DS to Switch. You could maybe argue it'll be easier for them to transition from Switch to the next gen system than it will have been from their transition from 3DS to Switch. So,
it depends on what they did.
I mean, absolutely depends, but I'm just saying I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the development time for the next 2D Metroid will be longer than Metroid Dread. I would argue that it would be shorter because they already have like a proper modern HD 2D Metroid engine in place. They didn't have that before Dread. Like, I think it makes more sense to think it would be
a possibility because I mean, if it would be a 4K capable system, they might want to push the graphics a lot harder. Who knows? Or maybe they'll just do basically the same visuals with higher resolution.
They could push the visuals, and it could still be a 4-year development time. It could be a 3-year development time. There's a lot that goes into that, right?
Yeah.
But the main point behind the question is not so much in terms of development time. It's the issue of, will Nintendo continue with Mercury Steam because of this practice that's going on here? So the basic issue that's going on here is that some Metroid Dread staff have been left out of the game's credits. They're not being appropriately credited at the end of the game. And the official statement... Let me see here. There's an official statement. And Mercury Steam representative told the outlet that the policy of the studio requires that anyone must work on the project for at least 25% of the total development of the game to appear in the final credits. So that's why some people who only worked on the project for 8 months were not put
only 8 months.
Were only put into the credits, which is interesting because I'm gonna assume that the voice actors were in the credits. I haven't scoured that, but I'm assuming they were.
You would hope so.
Right, and I'm pretty sure that was less time. So it kind of, I guess, depends on the position here.
But technically, I think they were hired on to the position for long enough, I guess. You know?
I don't know. I don't know how it works exactly. But this is not something unique to Mercury Steam. I'm not trying to say that makes it okay. I'm simply saying that this is something that has gone on before. What I would like to see is that perhaps, you know, maybe they put in a patch that add their names to the credits. I don't think... It just seems kind of like a petty thing. To be totally frank with you, I have to imagine it wouldn't be that hard to patch the game to add them to the credits.
I think it would have been... Like, why even not have them in the first place?
Right.
It's so weird.
It is weird. It's just...
I've seen games that have, 10-minute long credits because they have credits for, each country that worked on it. It's like, oh, this was who worked on the German version, and here's who worked on the UK version. It was just like, oh my gosh, like surely these people can put in some of these developers who worked 8 months.
I guess
like,
the thinking behind it is that there's a lot of hires that are just temporary hires, or not main pieces to the team. And I guess from the perspective of some companies, that's why they're not credited. And maybe from their perspective, it's not even them thinking that it's a big deal. It's just they just think, okay, you were only a part of from certain categories of development. You were only part of this project for so long. That's why you're not getting credited. So it really comes down to your expectation, I suppose. I think it shouldn't be that hard to put everyone's name in the credits. It really shouldn't be. Credits are always abnormally long anyway. Like. Maybe that's why they do it. Because
when was the last time you couldn't skip a credit scene in most games? Like you could just skip them.
Yeah.
These days, like I don't remember the last time I've gone.
I think
like, man, I can't skip this.
I think for me, I've always been afraid to skip credits because there might be something afterwards. So
that's why a smart developer skips to the thing afterwards.
Yeah. Like maybe like
a
when you're doing a cutscene, it tells you press minus to skip or something. Maybe if you do that during the credits, it says press minus to speed up to the end of the credits. So that way you know that you're not necessarily skipping a cutscene. So maybe something like that, but or maybe you can consider that disrespectful to the people who want to be credited. So there's different things to consider there. Ultimately, I just hope that this conversation, this discussion or controversy surrounding this just gets more developers to consider, hey, we should probably just do this. It's not really that much work. It just perhaps requires a little bit of consideration in terms of how you handle the credits. And maybe the reason why they do this is because they don't want the credits to be that long. But how much? I don't know. Like maybe there's like 1,000 people that had like a small piece to the game, and they weren't in there. So if they were to do that, all of a sudden they have to like triple the length of their credits. I don't know. But there's got to be something that they should be able to do.
People said they've worked for 8 months. If you worked almost a whole year in a game, you should be credited.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
It is a lot of work, right?
Imagine going and working 8 months on something and people won't even acknowledge that you did anything.
Yeah.
Like, how disrespectful is that? And it's much easier also to like build the resume and do things like that if you're actually credited for the work you did.
Yeah. Maybe they could patch that. I wonder if Nintendo will tell Mercury Steam, hey, you should patch this. Maybe they will. We'll see. I don't think this is going to be as so big of an issue that Nintendo will stop working with Mercury Steam. I do not believe that.
Anything massive.
In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that was already the case with Samus Returns. But the only difference now is that Metroid Dread is being received really well. A lot of people are playing Metroid Dread now. A lot of people are talking about Metroid Dread now. So, because of how successful the game is, far more than all other Mercury Steam projects, the people who worked on the game want to make sure that it is known that they were a part of this special project. It wasn't like that in the past, at least not to the same extent. So, that's why maybe this information is sort of like coming to the surface now, because people are like, hey, I was a part of this. I helped make this game special. I was a part of this thing. I want you guys to know that. And it's important because, it makes sense. Like you've played a role in this game and it's a special game. Like, absolutely, I think you deserve, for people to know that. Like, that's why credits exist.
Oh, yeah.
But, there's different companies in different parts of the world, different cultures, different things to consider. I probably don't know the full extent to why they do that, but I just hope that, they patch it. It can't be that hard to patch it. I'm assuming it can't be that hard to patch it. And I think that'll be it. Regardless, I don't think this will be a situation where Nintendo stops working with Mercury Steam because of it. I don't think this is that serious of an issue. I think just patch it. Patch the credits. Change your policy. If you want, the money is very convincing, right? I think this is probably gonna be Mercury Steam's most successful game. And if they want to continue to work on Metroid, patch the credits. There you go. That's simple. I don't think Nintendo wants that narrative for this game. I think they want this to have a spotless sort of record, you know? So it might already be something in discussions. I don't know that. I'm hoping. I don't know. It's also possible that this might not even be seen as big of enough of an issue for them to change anything. They might just think, hey, this is our policy. When you signed up, you knew this was our policy. So there's that. And that's also a possibility, right? They may have signed a contract knowing that, hey, you're only play a role in a small piece of development time for this project. There's a chance that you may not be featured in the credits. They may have signed that contract knowing that, you know? And they're only bringing this up now because they want it to be known because of how successful the game is. The game proved to be more successful than they thought it would be. So they're saying that to consider as well. Like, they may have signed up knowing that. I don't know that. I'm not saying, I'm just, you know, suggesting possibilities here. But either way, I do think that Mercury Steam should definitely be the developer working on the next project. But yeah, patch those credits.
Yeah, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but like, just fix it. Why not? You can. It's easy. Just do it.
Yeah.
Make it right.
Yeah. Absolutely. But let's talk about some of the other things surrounding the controversy surrounding Metroid Dread. So, Brandon, do you know who David Jaffe is, or Jaffe? I don't know how to pronounce his name.
No.
Okay, great. So this person, I don't have a high opinion of him. He apparently was like the designer or something for like the original game, God of War series. And
oh yes.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
I just didn't recognize the name.
And he has been making a lot of videos and saying that Metroid Dread is a poorly designed game. Which, by the way, I'm not even gonna get into the arguments yet. I'm just gonna say, you're an idiot. Why you're an idiot? Because Metroid Dread is an expertly crafted, designed game. It's the opposite of poorly designed. There is a lot more foresight and thought put into this than most games. Like, they thought really well ahead here. It's all well put together. And you could argue this is all subjective. And I subjectively think you're an idiot. That's there you go. My opinion is that you're an idiot. You're welcome. He
designed what, the original 3 God of War games? What level of design does that game even have? Like, I'm not an expert on these games, but as far as I know, they're just like basic slashers where you just move down corridors and kill enemies. And there's not really any level design. It's more like visual. Everything's all in the visual the feel of the game. It's not really about the levels at all. It's about gigantic bosses and ripping through enemies. And I don't understand why this guy thinks he just has this key understanding of game design. And
I design games, therefore my opinion on every game is superior. Yeah, I don't know. Well, let's look at what he does. Let's look that up.
Maybe he has other games, or maybe there's more level design than I know about God of War. Because honestly, I don't know a lot about the older ones, but from what I understand, I don't get it.
He worked on Cliffhanger, Sky Blazer, Mickey Mania, Twisted Metal 2, Twisted Metal Black. He was a game director for Twisted Metal 2 and lead designer for Twisted Metal Black. He was a designer on Kinetica. He was a game director and lead designer for God of War, the creative director for God of War 2, the game director Calling All Cars, game director for Twisted Metal, game director for Drawn to Death. So most of these games, I wouldn't say are like adventure games with like expert level design. Twisted Metal and God of War are great series. Not saying they aren't great series, but they're more action oriented. And I don't see anything here that says he's the level designer either. So, yeah. It's not what you do.
Yeah, I think this guy just got he got stuck on a game, made him mad, went onto Twitter, realized he was this.
I think he's a
looked
Nintendo
really dumb,
hater, actually.
and then didn't want to admit that he was wrong, and didn't want to look dumb, so he made himself look even dumber by defending it.
Yeah, no, he's like just digging a hole. Like he's jumped on this train of no, Metroid Dread is bad. It's poorly designed. Play Shantae. It's a way more expertly designed game. Like he's just a hater. Honestly, like that's what he comes off to me. I mean, I'm gonna show you this tweet here. This kind of highlights his point. Basically, it's an early part of Metroid Dread where you have to shoot some blocks above you, and
Are you showing the video compilation?
No, I'm not gonna show the video compilation. I'm just gonna show this graphic on Twitter from, I guess, Gava and you. So let me see here.
Do you know the video compilation I'm referring to?
Yeah, I've seen it. That includes a whole bunch of streamers playing the game, so I'm not gonna like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first
there
thing
we
I
go.
saw of it, and I was like, wow.
So if you see here, right, like this person here has this graphic that sort of highlights different clues. So basically, you can see Samus in the white circle. You're supposed to shoot the door, this up here to break through. There are multiple enemies on the ceiling that you can shoot, and if you shoot them, there's a good chance you'll accidentally open this up, right? You have enemies also flying above that you might want to aim at as well. As it points out here, is an orange widow pointing your attention towards this bridge. The breakable area looks different. It does look different, and when you're coming up, you can actually see a different texture on the bottom side of it. As it also points out, there's enemies crawling here. There is also a higher platform that gets you really close to the roof. The minimap shows you that these rooms are closely connected somehow. This part says it literally has the shape of a stair. I don't. Oh well, yeah. The
room without the floor.
Then there is an early game tutorial that says you should shoot suspicious walls and things and ceilings if you are stuck. Point is,
even specifically says missiles can be helpful too.
Right. So, and this guy right here, David Jaffe, just was playing on stream, and he was like, "Oh, this is so poorly designed. This is stupid, laughable. This shouldn't be in the final game. I can't believe this. This is pathetic." And basically, he's just trash. Like, there's a video, to your point, Brandon, that came out that shows a whole bunch of streamers playing the game for the first time, all of which was at different skill levels, and just kind of like
instantly finding it, like not even trying, like just accidentally noting it was there, like literally like 10 different ones, and it was within 5 seconds of walking in the room, or less for some of them, that they found this thing. Like, it was insane. I have no idea how this dude didn't find it instantly. It's honestly incredible. He's got like anti-skill.
Yeah, I think this is like, there's just, I mean, I think I've already shown enough of this graphic, but there's just a different school of thought for a lot of gamers. I think a lot of people do not want to be challenged. They want everything to be obvious and easy. And you know, if that's how you feel, you know, then I'm not saying your opinion is wrong. I'm simply saying that maybe Metroid's not for you. Because Metroid isn't about a cakewalk. It isn't about, hey, you're going to play this game with zero resistance. There's, you know, minimal path to resistance, and you're just going to fly through to see the story. Like, that's not what Metroid's about. Metroid is about exploration, discovery, revelation, puzzles, combat, action, mystery. And, like, there's basically, like, it's meant to challenge you. And you are supposed to push yourself. When I've talked about the game before, I've talked about how it makes you uncomfortable. And I don't mean that in a bad way. What I mean is that you're going to have a lot of moments playing through Metroid where you're challenged and you are sort of forced to try and figure things out. It's a puzzle game. Puzzles are something you are supposed to solve, not just know. So that moment there is a puzzle. It's an environmental puzzle. And you have to figure it out. It's an aha moment, right? Where like, oh, I can go through there. Awesome. So like that's kind of like, and that moment you figure it out is satisfying. It's exciting. It's elating. If it was just an open path, imagine if they designed Metroid Dread in a way, it's like, oh, okay, this is it. Like, there's no breakable blocks. It's just everything that would be breakable is just open. You can get any power up you want, and it's just like you have glowing areas telling you to go exactly where. Like, it's basically, oh, okay, so just follow the path. All right, here I go. And then like maybe they also change it so the bosses they do like next to no damage, right? They don't knock you back, and you just have to shoot them for a few minutes and they're dead. Like, the chances of dying are like next to none. Yeah, I mean, I guess they could put a mode like that, right? And then it would be, I guess, something that like people who have I guess there are some people who would want that. But that would go against the design of the game. It would go against what the game is about. Like, it's supposed to be challenging. Like, you have these bosses, like there is supposed to be a threat level there. If you can't die, then that threat level is gone. That sort of that sense of atmosphere and scope and sort of threat is gone now. So you no longer, it's not as enthralling, right? It doesn't feel like a challenge anymore. You don't feel like you're this badass of rising up, getting stronger, and taking on these monsters, or you don't feel like, hey, I'm pretty smart, I was able to navigate up this labyrinth and figure out the puzzles. Like, that sense of satisfaction is gone. And maybe some people are like that, but then there are other games, you know, that don't appeal to that.
Yeah. I think that's it's a little. Okay, let me give my school thought here, because I have a slightly controversial one. There is no game where I feel like lowering things like stats, like how much damage something does, or how much health I have, or how much defense I have, or something like that. Just pure number-based stats in a game, to where that actually makes it a genuinely worse game, or that it shouldn't have it. Dark Souls should have an easy mode. It should. I'm not talking less enemies. Don't change the mechanics at all. Leave Dark Souls exactly how Dark Souls should be, but give me more health. Make me take less damage. There are people who literally just do not have the skill to play this game, and an easy mode would still be freaking hard as hell, but at least it would be possible to beat for them. Like, I think that if a game, they should have some sort of option. Not every game needs it. Like, I don't think Dread's hard enough to where it needs an easy mode. I just don't think it's necessary. I
do think Metroid Dread is an above average. It's an above average game in terms of difficulty. It is harder than most games. And Dark Souls is also harder than most games. But I'll also tell you that Metroid Dread, Dark Souls, these games, they are designed in a way where you are supposed to die. That is part of the game. You are going to die. Now, Dread is not as bad as Dark Souls. In Dark Souls, it's designed in a way where you're going to have moments where you are frustrated, exasperated, perhaps to the ways where it can be darkening to your soul, because like you will play Dark Souls, you will gain up this currency, and the game has an in-game currency called like souls, and every time you kill an enemy, you get more and more souls, and you use these souls to buy things and power-ups and strengthen yourself. And it's very exciting when you have a really big number, but then if you die, you know what happens? You lose all your souls, and then you have to run all the way back to get it again. But if you die on your way to get it back, you lose it for good. And that can be very frustrating. What?
I said you're done, so friend.
Yeah, you're just done. And oftentimes, sometimes the respawns aren't that, like, there's quite a bit of threat you have to run through a lot of the time to get back there. So, Dark Souls, in terms of difficulty and punishment, is on a far greater level than Metroid Dread. But I'll tell you that I personally am okay with the way Dark Souls is, but I guess you could say I'm a hardcore gamer, right? Like, I like it when things are challenging. I love that F-Zero GX felt impossible. But, I think it's up to the designers, honestly. It's their game. They have their own vision of the game. Let them design the game how they want it to be. It's kind of like the video games are the they're works of art. Like, so if the designers have a certain vision of the game and that's how they want it, then so be it. But at the same time, right, you know, like, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. While the designers are entitled to design the game they want, people are also entitled to play what they want, right? So if the games are designed in a way that are very challenging and it feels alienating to you, you shouldn't feel compelled to play it. You're entitled to that. And the cost is that, hey, if you design a challenging game, there are going to be people who don't play your game, and less people are going to buy it. Like, that kind of comes to the territory of being challenging, right? Now, to your point, Brandon, what if they just did offer an easier mode?
It would. I don't even think it needs to be easy. I don't think they should call it easy mode, because I think that would be misleading.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the easy mode would be easy at all. It's just a slightly easier mode.
Yeah. The naming of that is challenging. Baby mode. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Little B word mode.
I don't know. You know, I think it comes down to the designer. I know some people don't like a challenge; they just like to relax. But there's different kinds of games, you know. But specifically with Metroid Dread, though, I think the point of the game is to challenge you. It is to feel uncomfortable sometimes, but that's what's exciting about it, because you strive for something, and when you succeed, you have a sense of satisfaction. Metroid Dread is not a game of instant gratification. So, you know, I think we live in a society where there's a lot more instant gratification.
Sure.
You know, perhaps you could argue that a lot of us have been conditioned to not want to have difficult experiences. And everyone has certain different tastes there, right? There are different kinds of games. But a big exciting element to Dark Souls and Metroid is that it is challenging. You are going to fail. And a part of the experience, a part of the way the games are designed, is that you're going to fail. You're going to think about how you go about doing that again, and then you go at it. Like, that's part of the way the games are designed. So if they were to offer up these easier difficulties, that can kind of mess with that, you know? So that's something to consider there. Like, making it easy isn't just offer an easier mode so other people can experience the game. It takes away from their design direction. So that there is something they have to consider there. I'm not saying it's impossible, just something that you have to consider, right? I
think Metroid does difficulty very well because it's hard,
but it's not punishing.
At the same time, it's not punishing. You
Exactly.
don't lose everything. You go right back to where
right before
the door, and then you just try again. That's my favorite level of difficulty. But it takes the tedium out of it, so it's you get that reward for trying, but you're not having to waste your time.
Right. Yeah, and it's a great point, because yes, Metroid Dread is challenging. You may die 100 times playing through the game, but exactly, like
I've played Celeste.
Yeah.
And I can't get through Dark Souls because it's so tedious getting back and forth that I just lose my mind.
That is a key difference.
I played that, and that game is hard AF, and I beat that. I'm not 100%. I can get all the strawberries.
Celeste was tough. Celeste was tough.
But yeah.
Yeah, it was very tough. I enjoyed the heck out of it, but it was tough.
100 times on a single level.
Yeah.
Like 300.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I think, Brandon, you agree that while Metroid Dread is challenging, it's a game that I think most people can play. And if they are persistent, they will get through it. And that persistence, I don't think will be met with much frustration. Obviously, everyone has different, perspectives and opinions. Obviously, some people were frustrated by it. David Jaffe was frustrated by it. But I think for him, it has less to do with Metroid and more to do with his personal personality. And I suspect a hatred towards Nintendo. But that's, I mean, that's just sort of the vibe I get from the guy.
The vibe I get is he just got really embarrassed on Twitter by making himself look like an absolute fool.
He continues to fight his argument. Like, you see more and more videos trying to sell his argument.
I mean, he has a fairly prestigious resume. So, like, for somebody as big as him in the industry to fail at something so basic must be super embarrassing. So, I kind of imagine that he's just trying to find some kind of way to make him not look like an idiot, but he's making himself look like an absolute fool.
Yeah, I think he just needs to shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's kind of a big talking point of Metroid Dread as of late. This situation, you know, again, it's a challenging game. It's not for everyone, but I think the challenge is really not insurmountable for most people. I think part of the experience is about beating that challenge and getting excited when you accomplish that. There will be moments where you get stuck. That will happen. But that's part of the fun. You're gonna have these moments of resistance of discomfort, and then you push a little bit and you get through it. But
these people better not play Super Metroid, because they will never be able to wall jump.
Super Metroid. How about the original Metroid?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I won't even go back to that one.
And that's another thing to consider. Older games, the difficulty
was honestly horrible sometimes.
It was very hard, but part of that was also by design to some extent, because games were a lot shorter then. That difficulty increased the amount of time it took you to play and beat the game, which kind of circles back to what we were talking about.
Arcade was so big at the time.
Right.
Like, arcades was like half of the entire industry. It was insane.
Yeah, like that's a great point too, because a lot of these games were based off arcade games, and you needed a game to kick your butt, because you would lose, so you would have to pay more money to play it again, and the games weren't very long. They needed to be possible to beat them, but in order to beat them, you had to get good. So there's a lot of that with a lot of older games. But this sort of circles back to Metroid Dread, because we were talking about like the length of the game. If you don't die ever, yes, the game is faster. But even if you look at the game times, those game times don't include your deaths. So, you know, take that into consideration. If it takes you 13, 14, 16 hours to beat the game in the in-game timer, if you factor in all your deaths, it's actually a lot longer. And you factor in your map time, analyzing the map to figure out puzzles to progress, that also is not factored in there either. So, yeah, Metroid Dread's kind of long, it's kind of challenging, but that's part of the fun. So now let's talk about this next, a controversy surrounding Metroid Dread. And that has to do with this Kotaku article that is titled, "Dear Metroid Dread, Samus doesn't need to be an emotionless robot to be badass."
Kotaku. Can you just stop talking for a bit, Kotaku? Like, just stop writing articles for just a second, take a break, take a step back. Stop talking about Metroid Dread.
I think that Metroid Dread, I don't like speaking from a place of superiority. I don't like doing that. I like to speak from a perspective of evenness across the board. But just because I'm speaking from a point of subjectivity here, just consider my perspective. I'm a longtime Metroid fan. I've played the original Metroid. I've played Metroid Prime Pinball. I've played Metroid Fusion, Metroid Prime 1, Metroid Prime 2, Metroid Prime 3, Metroid Other M. I've played Metroid Dread, Metroid Samus Returns. I've played a lot of these games several times. I've read the Metroid manga, although I haven't finished the Metroid manga. I need to go back to that. I did play through Super Metroid as well, twice. I'm a big Metroid fan. I'm a big Metroid fan. I've loved this series for years. What?
Look at what's behind you. Good old Samus.
Good old Sammy right there. And then, do you see that? That's a Super Metroid puzzle. Okay? Like, I put that together and framed it. Dope. So, yeah, I'm a Metroid fan. So consider that. But then also, I just want to say that, like, you know, when I was in college, I studied theater and film, and and design of story and arcs and things of that nature and voice acting and all of that. So I feel like I come from an educated perspective in that regard as well, in terms of story and characters. So the reason I talk about this is not to say, oh, my opinion's better than other people. It's just that I feel like I have a nuanced understanding of the story of Metroid to some extent, is my point.
Right.
And the character that is Samus. And I feel that the way Mercury Steam and Nintendo and Yoshio Sakamoto, the series director for Metroid, put this all together, the way they designed everything, the way they designed Samus and how she handles everything, I think was ideal. Like, Yoshio Sakamoto was intentional with Samus's silence. That's all by design. It wasn't like they wanted to convey things in certain ways. Metroid Dread is about dread. There's a certain fear. There's an anticipation of something dark and menacing that brings you down or makes you nervous or anxious. Like, that's a part of the game. It's a part of the motifs and theming of the game. So when you have this article that is suggesting that Samus is just an emotionless robot and that Nintendo's only intent was to make her seem badass, I think that is a little insulting to everything that they did in Metroid Dread, because it's more nuanced, it's more subtle. It's not trying to be over the top. Samus is a character that has dealt with a lot. This is the last game in the series, in the timeline. So what that means is everything that we've seen from the Metroid series, Samus has experienced all of that already. This is the most mature, most experienced Samus yet. So, you know, she should be less prone to jump scares and emotional trauma just because she's been dealing with that for so long already. This is not her first rodeo. She's used to seeing death. She's used to losing friends and family and close ones. She's used to dealing with menaces and jump scares and dark, dreadful moments. She has experience with all of this. So is she going to be surprised when she's been dealing with this her entire life? She's gonna like, you build up calluses and resistance to this over time. So to a certain extent, like, to expect her to be so reactive to these things when she typically isn't so reactive to these things, like outwardly, obviously, that goes against her character. But that doesn't mean she can't go on.
Right, I feel like if I had to compare Samus to any other video game character, I'd probably compare her to Master Chief, to be honest. I feel like that's a pretty decent comparison. Master Chief barely ever talks. Like, very rarely. I think he has, like, a few... like, he'll have, like, a few lines in each game, and that's it. Like, he talks about as much as Mario does in the Mario RPGs. Like, he never talks. And I feel like it's weird that this is something that they brought up for Samus. It's like, this is other video game characters have done it. Master Chief barely talks. He's kind of like this stoic badass who doesn't really need to speak. Like, he's been through everything. He's seen everything. He's the best. Like, why would he? He's not gonna, like, just be chit-chatting with the aliens over here. Like, what do you expect? He's just gonna get in, get the job done. He only speaks when he needs to. Otherwise, he stays silent. Like, I feel like it's a very similar term, very similar personality there. Not to mention that they're both just space shooter people.
Yeah, I get your point. I would say Samus is more silent than Master Chief, but yeah, I mean, he's not a super talkative character. I don't want to spoil Metroid Dread, okay? But to see this person say that they didn't handle her right, I think that's just a gross misunderstanding. It almost makes me think that they even play the game in its entirety. So I'm not going to tell you what happens, but there are a few key moments in the game where we do see a lot more from Samus than we normally see, from a personality perspective that goes beyond nuance, that are obvious, okay? And it's done in, I think, in a very tasteful, appropriate way that will have you very excited, that will have you very impressed with how they handled Samus, and you're gonna be like, this is incredible. Like, there are these payoff moments, but in general, Samus is very quiet and calculated. She, in an alien world where there's enemies everywhere, yeah, that's how she's gonna be. But it doesn't mean she doesn't react. The game does show subtlety. You do see Samus sometimes kneel down or take a moment to stare at something, like, and you do see her facial reactions. Like, there are things there, and it does leave a lot for interpretation in terms of how Samus is dealing with things. But the point is that there is an attention to detail here. It's nuanced, but it's not like they weren't thinking about it. They absolutely were. Everything here is intentional. Her silence is intentional. But there are moments, I don't want to spoil anything, but I know a lot of you in the chat probably already know, but for those who don't, I'm not going to spoil anything, but just trust me here. When you play through Metroid Dread, there are moments in the game where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she did that. Like, it's like in a really cool, exciting way. And it kind of, I think, is highly indicative of an understanding of Samus's character, and it's quite a payoff. Like, this is something that happens at the end of the game that I had to re-experience multiple times because it's just super hype, super cool, and I'm like, I can't believe Samus did that kind of thing. It's a really cool story beat, and it sort of highlights. It's a climactic moment. It's a climactic moment that's sort of building up to this moment, and it just sort of validates everything else that's happened. So when you see articles like this, they call Samus an emotionless robot. By the way, Samus is not a robot. She's a human, sort of. She's a human, but then not, because she has. Also, don't want to spoil everything, but at least going into the game, you know that she has Metroid DNA. She's been also attacked by the X-Parasite. Like, she's also has Chozo DNA. She's not human exactly either. She's an amalgamation of things, yeah. And she goes through changes throughout Metroid Dread as well. So to call her an emotionless robot, that's just like entirely disrespectful to who she is. It's not at all an appropriate indication of what she is. It's a clickbait article. I mean, it's a headline just to draw on clicks. That's what it is, and it's a bogus claim that kind of, honestly, I think just shows it in a very poor understanding of the direction of her character, and it almost makes me think they didn't actually play through the entire game. Because if you did, and you understood her history, and you understood everything at the end, to, not saying to an extreme extent, but just to the basic understanding of what she went through and how it all happened, like, I don't think you would make that article. I just feel like they were trying to get clicks, and it's just
they must have just played Other M and then went straight to Dread. No other games.
I mean, Other M does have a different direction. Yeah, I played Other M.
The voice acting, they were like, "Wow, stellar! What a story! The best part of Metroid, Other M for sure." And then they went to Dread and were like, "What is this? No story, no Samus breaking down for no reason. What is happening?"
Yeah.
I can't believe.
Yeah. And just on the note of Other M, I actually liked Other M. The story is kind of to me. It's not. I don't want to say it's bad. I don't want to say it's good. A lot of people had issues with how they portrayed her character there. I think they were more nuanced and less overt in Dread, but also Dread is the most mature Samus. Other M is a less mature Samus, or shows elements of less mature Samus. So that's also something to consider here. Other M is earlier in the timeline. So even if you 100% are okay with...
Early?
How early?
Yeah.
Actually...
I feel like it's not the very first game.
It's not.
The reactions I've seen her have are ridiculous. She would never do that.
It's before Fusion. I think it's between Super Metroid and yeah, it's before Super. It's after Super Metroid, which is Metroid 3, but it's before Metroid Fusion. So, I mean, it's not the beginning of the Metroid timeline, but it's also not the end. My point simply is that I'm not trying to argue for Other M here. I'm just simply saying that Samus in Metroid Dread should be more mature than Other M Samus. That's all I'm saying. She literally it's a couple games after, so just something else to sort of consider there. But I think the reason why we're seeing articles like this, while we're seeing these controversies about X game designers saying the game is bad, or you're seeing people come out and saying, hey, I wasn't credited for this game, even though oftentimes developers aren't credited for this game, yet we don't see articles about those, is because Metroid Dread is lit. It is popular. It is the jazz. It's why it's a big deal. What?
The bee's knees, man.
It's the bee's knees. It's the bee's knees. So the reason we're seeing all these controversies now is because it's successful. People want to get in on the conversation. They want to be like, hey, I was a part of this. Or they want to put out a clickbait article so they get a whole bunch of clicks. Or they want to be the guy putting this game down because they don't want to see Nintendo be successful, and they want everyone to know that they are an amazing designer and they know way better than Nintendo, even though they don't, because obviously they don't. But like, point is, Metroid Dread is doing really, really well right now, showing a lot of strong sales, lots of record-breaking moments. It's doing incredibly well. It's buzzing on social media. We're continually talking about there's an excitement here. This is a big moment for the Metroid franchise. I think it's a strong indicator for beautiful things to come. I hope they figure out that whole credits situation, because I would love for people to be appropriately credited, but I also want Mercury Steam to stick on as the 2D Metroid developer. I think them, in conjunction with Nintendo and Yoshio Sakamoto, they have a really strong formula there for that, and I think they should continue on. It doesn't have to be immediate. They can wait a few years, but they should be the dedicated Metroid developer. I don't want another Other M situation. I'm not saying the game was bad, but there's definitely things that could be better, and Metroid Dread, I think, is the better that we needed. So, great stuff. But I think we should move on, because we've been talking about Metroid, and we still have other things to discuss. I'll check with the chat first before we move on. Get to a couple comments here, and then we'll move forward. Do you have any final thoughts on this whole Metroid Dread topic, Brandon?
I'm just excited to get to play the game soon.
You're gonna love it.
Hell yeah.
It's my game of the year. I think, based off the Metacritic, it probably should win Game of the Year, but that's never really been the sole indicator.
Maybe it will.
Maybe it will.
It might be my Game of the Year once I play it too.
It's
I don't
really good.
Have a solid one. Then again, I gotta play Ratchet and Clank, and that's a series I've been a fan of since I was very young. Whereas Metroid is just something I've gotten in this generation of Nintendo. So
yeah, but after thinking about it and talking about it, I guess the 5 Game of the Year nominations are Returnal, Resident Evil Village, Metroid Dread, Monster Hunter Rise, and Ratchet and Clank. Like, there may be a couple others that would be considered, but those seems like an appropriate Game of the Year nomination lineup. But we'll see what happens. Super Chris, gross doesn't even begin to explain how outright stupid that sounded. I'm glad you agree. Paco Salvador, Kotaku's take is so bad, like Dubai language doesn't count, and throughout all the game, Samus shows emotions. She does show emotions, like that is a good point. Like, it's not like Samus is... There are moments where she shows emotions. Hawk also notes she also has Metroid DNA in her from Fusion. True, so that should change how she is. Absolutely. Yeah, there was a moment where the bitrate went down. Birdman. I don't know why. It just kind of happens.
Internet fluctuations, I guess, or maybe computer.
I don't know. Yeah, it just happens sometimes. Like, most times it says excellent connection, but although I would love...
It might even be YouTube, to be honest. Sometimes
could be. I would love to, at some point, have fiber optic internet, so my upload speeds will just be like 1,000 down up. Like, that would be amazing, as opposed to like 10. So
Yeah, my brother gets 1,200 down, but it's Comcast, so really you only get like 800 at best. But it's still like wicked fast download.
yeah, my
I think
down speeds
upload's
are great,
like 40.
but I don't really need down
Comcast
speeds. I need up
uploads are
speeds.
horrible.
They
Then
are.
again, 40 is plenty for most people.
Yeah, but let's now move on here, right? There's a few other things we got to talk about. I think we should talk a little bit about Animal Crossing because I think that will
I guess I'll
blend
that one.
very nicely into the N64 thing because you see how that would transition well.
Oh yeah.
And then we'll close out with a few minutes on next gen stuff. So Brandon, you are more of my Animal Crossing guy.
Yes, I am.
I mean, I watched the information.
Resident Animal Crossing expert? Not really. I've only played New Leaf and New Horizons.
I'll give you my take on the Animal Crossing news. It's more Animal Crossing stuff. I have not touched my Animal Crossing New Horizons game in over a year. I don't miss it. I'm not saying I hated the experience.
But I do miss it.
I didn't hate the experience. I thought it was charming. If I opened it up and I found myself playing, I probably would play it for a little bit. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I also just don't feel compelled to go back. But after watching...
I think that's kind of the glory of Animal Crossing, is that, and I think you might have, sorry to cut you off, you might have been leading into this, but you can play Animal Crossing and then just leave it, and then come back, and new things will just be there for you to do. Every season, just new fish will rotate. I mean, if you're into the Animal Crossing lifestyle, you know, catching fish, doing your museum, getting new furniture for your house, unless you're going to other people's villages and like metagaming to get everything, yeah, those are things you just have to wait for. Like, if you want to play the holiday Christmas events, well, you gotta wait for it to be Christmas, unless you want to cheat. Like, I think that's kind of the beauty of Animal Crossing, is you can leave for a bit and come back, and there will be new things for you to do, new things for you to experience.
Yeah.
And you don't have to play the game every single day, 365. You can come back when there's things going on.
You are trying to you are giving me some pause for thought here, Brandon. I'll give you that. I am sort of like, oh, well, maybe I could. I guess it's just, I don't know. Maybe if I had friends that were like, "Hey, come play with us," I'd be like, "Oh, fine, I'll do it."
I'll play with you once I get my Switch.
I'd rather play Monster Hunter with you.
We can play both.
We could do both, I suppose.
Been out for a while, and I've pretty much gotten my fill for the most part of the main game. There's some stuff, the DLC we gotta play through.
Yeah.
But other than that,
I'll tell you that all the updates, I'm sure they're nice updates. One thing I do like is that a couple things. I saw the camera thing, how you can put it to like a first person mode and see up close.
That's lovely.
That I actually was like, oh cool, I can get a better look at some of the environment here, because it is a very pretty game.
Just how well crafted, and like the texture detail, even on like small little objects, are surprisingly nice. So you can zoom in on your little knickknacks and stuff, and they still look great.
Yeah.
You get a new perspective on the animals and your town and pretty much anywhere you want to go. So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, I'm there with you. So that is something that I think I would actually like, because I would try out some things. I'm like, oh, maybe I could see up close. Like that does seem kind of neat. I also did appreciate that they seem to add like a new animation for like squeezing through narrow areas, which I actually think is really important, because when you're designing homes and putting furniture together and accessories and such, like it can get really tight sometimes. So to offer that option, that mechanic, I think that's actually a really, really good thing to add. So that's actually kind of exciting. So from the free update stuff, that's what sort of stood out to me as I'm not an Animal Crossing hater, because I put in like 30 hours into the game. I bought the game. I don't think it's bad. I think it's a great game for people who are into it.
Right.
I'm an Animal Crossing. Play it maybe sometimes if you twist my wrist, hand,
I'm an Animal
ankle
Crossing
kind of person.
Fan. I'm not one of those Animal Crossing people who have played the game for like 1,000 hours. I think my game has like 80 or something in it, and I'll definitely pro a lot more once I get the chance. But yeah, I mean, this is like a game I'll play for like 200 or 300 hours. It's not a game I'll play for like 1,000, but I'll definitely put some hours with it over the years, and it's gonna be a while so we get the next one. So there's gonna be reason for me to keep going back, and I haven't even close to. I haven't even upgraded my house all the way. My museum
I
is
never even
nowhere near
unlocked
done.
terraforming. Maybe I'll
No,
go.
I didn't unlock it. I didn't unlock terraforming
Stop
either, to
it!
be
No,
honest.
you're motivating me to play Animal Crossing. Oh God, I'm gonna have an existential
I
crisis.
think for the free updates, for me, it was kind of what they brought back from the 3DS. Was a lot of big things for me, which is strange, because you'd think, oh, well, they were in the 3DS one. It's just coming. They're just pretty much bringing back content they already had, but they're doing it in a way. I feel like any content they add in New Horizons is special, even if they've had it in a different one before, because of the options that New Horizon has. Like the amount of customization that New Horizons pioneered and for the series was insane. Like you look at New Leaf and you look at what you can do with a town in New Leaf, and you look at New Horizons, and it's not even close. Like you can't even put furniture outside. Like if you want to build something outside of your house in New Leaf, you have to build a public works project, which is extremely expensive. It can be like over 100 grand. Like it can be more than your house sometimes, and all you get is like a windmill, and you're like, cool, I have a windmill now. You could just do that in New Horizons.
It's
And
just
I think
it's a lot
that's
of
just really
effort.
special with all the stuff they're adding. Is just it just makes it so much more meaningful now.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a substantial free update. Also, the last one apparently, but I think that will go a long ways towards improving the game for people, getting them more involved. Because I know there's a lot of people who've been begging for an update. A lot of Animal Crossing fans. The second best-selling game on Switch, 30 plus million. Like, there's a lot of people out there that are gonna really, really be into this stuff. I think there's certainly a lot of thought that went into this, and I'm sure this, as they said in the video, like there's some things that they didn't even show off that are going to be in there, right? And all these things intertwine with what's already there, and it creates a lot of options and variety with your gameplay experience, right? So there's certainly a lot there to appreciate and explore. So between, I am not going to do this, Brandon. I am not going.
Do it.
Maybe
with all of your anger.
the problem is that I have so much to play and so much other things in life to do. There's so much I have to do right now. I can't say there's just things I can't say publicly, but there's a lot of work to be done and personal life things. It's just to then and just I want to play through the Bayonetta series, and then I need to play through Okami, and then Mario Party's coming out, and then Shin Megami Tensei 5, and I want to speedrun Metro. No, it's too much. I want to play through Zero Mission. Okay, anyway, there's a lot of stuff, but I want to talk about Happy Home Paradise, though. Like, I'm trying to separate these two things here. But I know you want to talk about Animal Crossing, so is there anything else you want to say with the free update stuff before we kind of progress to the DLC stuff?
As far as the free update stuff goes, I'm just super happy. I just the fact that the Roost is back is great. I love the Roost. I love coffee. So anything that has to do with coffee is great.
It does seem nice. Seems useless, but it seems very, like, comfortable. Like, I want to go there. Like, I love the museum. The museum is one of my favorite parts of the game. I love collecting animals and putting them there. It's like, and I love the music in the background. Like, it's so soothing. And then to also add that, it's like, I'm gonna pop it in there, drink a little coffee. Like,
nice cup of coffee.
I don't understand the value of it in terms of, like, what does it give me? But I also understand people play Animal Crossing just to relax, and it is relaxing. So I'll give you that. Like, so
something that you'll be very happy is back, I'm sure, for your type of play style is the ordinances, because I saw that you would probably want to do the Beautify Town ordinance, which makes you don't have to upkeep the town. So it's good for players who don't play constantly, so weeds won't grow, your villagers will be a lot less annoyed that you've just gone.
I did see
It's
that.
just overall better for people who don't play as often and don't want to just be picking weeds and doing chores every single day. So that might be a good one for you, or like the late night ordinance if you want to play late at night or early in the morning. The ordinance is coming back.
I saw something in the chat that I need to address. Sorry, Brandon. Who else but Zane just said Andres has a lot of porn to direct. I am not a porn director.
No, you don't got your OnlyFans?
No.
Dang.
No. However,
I was thinking of doing a cameo.
you know, if we ever hit our Patreon goal, you know what? I keep forgetting. I need to set up the memberships, but I'll set up a goal and I'll put like feet pics for Bandana and Charmander. Yeah. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
But sorry to cut you off.
You're not going into porn. You're going into Rule 34. I see.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the free updates is not enough to compel me to go back to Animal Crossing personally. I know if you're an Animal Crossing fan, this is all great stuff. Not trying to take away from that. I'm just saying for me, free updates alone is not enough to get me to be like, I'm going to start playing this again. Brandon, on the other hand, when he's bringing up his points, it is kind of making me think, oh, well, maybe I could fire it up one of these evenings. Like, maybe. But then when I consider Happy Home Paradise and how that seems to be almost its own experience that would complement your island, because the items you can acquire, that's a little different. That's something that I may want to try out. Because I do like how it's a separate thing, almost. It's almost like a side game. I mean, it's pretty much what it is. It's like a side game, you know?
It's basically Happy Home Designer in New Horizons.
I never played Happy Home Designer.
Its own game on 3DS. It was essentially the exact same type of game. You're just somebody who designs homes for people. It's pretty much literally they took Happy Home Designer, changed it to work within the island theme of New Horizons, and then just added all the crazy awesome customizations that New Horizons had, and then evolved them even further, which was insane.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, who else but Zane? We're all good. I just saw it. I just felt like I needed to address it, but we're all good. Well, I'm sorry, Brandon. Like it is kind of neat. When I was first seeing it, I was kind of thinking like a little worried that I would have to like play the main game to unlock things to use to design the homes, but that's not the vibe I got from the footage. It looks like you just have all the options immediately.
It's kind of the other way around, whereas when you unlock new customizations in the DLC, then you unlock them in the main game. So you don't have everything unlocked when you immediately go to the DLC, but you playing the DLC unlocks those special features. I'm not sure how long that takes. We're not really exactly sure about that, but I can't imagine it would take like an exorbitant amount of time to do. I guess it just depends on how crazy you want to go with the designs. I'm sure there's like speedrun strats for just like throwing a room together with, not any thought about it and just clearing through as much as you want just to unlock customizations.
It looks fun. Like I like the idea of being able to design things with less limitation there. Because part of the allure of Animal Crossing New Horizons is being able to sort of design your island and the homes and stuff, but the limitation is you have to get the items, right? You have that limitation. In Happy Home Design, you can kind of just do it. You have a lot more freedom there, and you can explore different islands. I know the islands you can't just explore them. It's kind of like segmented to a little square, but you can still see more environments there. And when you consider all the free updates they added as well, like we can get on the cabin guy and go to different islands. Or there's like this other island that you can build up shops there. it's kind of like with all these different updates, like
about that.
Yeah, there's a lot more to explore, actually.
Update.
Yeah.
Like, just having Red the Painter on standby is crazy, because usually you can see him like once every blue moon and hope to buy a real painting from him for your museum. Actually getting paintings without just asking your friends if Red is in town and you can go visit their island is crazy, and now it's gonna be so much easier. That's a huge one for me.
Yeah. Just for the record, guys, I don't think talking about porn is inherently against the rules of YouTube. The channel's already not for children, just for the record. Like, I had that's just the way YouTube works now. You have to specify, is it for children or not? The channel is not for children. So I can say the word pornography. Now, I'm not going to talk about pornographic content specifically. That will never happen, because that would be bad. But, you know, it's okay. It's not a big deal. It was just something funny that I just wanted to bring up. That's all. Not a big deal. Yeah.
Not
yeah.
bad.
Yeah. But, you know, technically the channel is for adults, just for the record. Technically. So, that's just the way that YouTube is structured now.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you know, Animal Crossing, like, when you factor in the Happy Home Paradise stuff, like, there's a fair amount of content that's coming here, and as I don't know what to call myself. I'm not a fan, but I'm not a hater. As in
fair weather fan, I don't know. What do they call that?
As a person that feels like he has to play it as because he's a I don't know. As a somebody who owns Animal Crossing New Horizons,
you're just like, you're just explaining how I felt when I went to play Pokemon on the Switch, Sword and Shield. I was like, I guess I have to play this because I should play it. Oh god, this is bad. This game sucks.
Animal Crossing does not suck. It's just not for me.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a lot of fun stuff. Like, I think the Happy Home Paradise, I do like designing things. I do like that. So, you know, with Happy Home Paradise, like, it seems like that barrier of, like, limitation of resources has been mitigated. So
yeah,
that will probably, you know, I may be willing to give that a try. And now, I'll tell you this, it's not exciting enough for me to spend $25 to do that. But if I'm already going to be a Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack member, I will likely then take advantage of the feature. That's a segue.
Yes.
Yeah. So it does add value. So that I kind of appreciate. But a lot of people are upset with the pricing. And let me see if I can pull it up. I will tell you this immediately. I was surprised at how expensive it is. I did not expect it to be that high.
I think during the podcast, most of us thought it was going to be $10 to at most $20 more. And it's $30. I think Dumo even wanted it to be $5 more. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I remember him saying, "Oh, it should only be like $5 more." Like, no, it could double it. It's fine.
Okay.
They more than doubled it though. That's
it's a bit crazy.
Yeah. That's where it gets a little hard to swallow. I'm trying to look at like the pricing here. Few memberships. Okay, so let me just go over the pricing structure of base Nintendo Online. If you want to get it for a month, it costs you $4. I'm talking about American dollars. I know that the pricing varies in other regions, and in other regions it's not as expensive, or vice versa. But for an individual membership, $4 for a month if you buy it just for a month at a time. $8 for 3 months, you save some money there, and $20 for a whole year. I think $20 is not that high a price. When you get things like Tetris 99, and you get NES and SNES, and you get on the access to online play, like, it's it's easy to swallow. And then the family membership
and
is...
there's been other 99 games as well, so...
Yeah, there are other ones. Like, there's a Pac-Man 99, there was Mario 35, or something like that.
Yeah, which unfortunately isn't there anymore, but...
No, but it was available for a little bit, and it was fun.
I never actually got to play it.
I played it. It was fun. There's also the family membership, which for a whole year is $35. You get up to 8 people there. So you divide 35 by 8, it gets pretty cheap, actually. Yeah.
It's less than $4 a year? Or is it?
What
is math?
I don't know. I can't do it.
Around $4 a year, isn't it? No, I don't know.
35 divided by 8 is $4.37. Or to round up, 38 cents. It's less than $5 a year if you get 8 people, which may not be easy for everyone to do, but you can, in theory, pay less than $5 a year for Nintendo Online, which I think is pretty manageable. But Nintendo has introduced a more expensive version of Nintendo Online. And this includes Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis online games, and Animal Crossing: New Horizons Happy Home Paradise. I mean, that's it. That's what you get. Nintendo 64 online, Sega Genesis, and Happy Home Paradise. That's what the extra pricing includes. I'm trying to find the pricing on the website. I mean, I think I used it as a thumbnail earlier. Actually, I'll just go to that. I literally tweeted it. No, I didn't. I lied. It's $50, okay?
It's 50 and 80 respectively.
Yeah. I was just trying to find it on the website, but I can't find it because I'm not looking very well. But yes, to Brandon's point, it's $50 a year to have the whole pack, and $80 for the family. So if you divide that by 8, if you get 8 people, that's $10 a year. So that's more than double of $80 is more than double of 35, right? So the more double the price there.
Not by a lot, but it is still more.
And then the individual plan, it's 50 as opposed to 20. So you're more than doubling the price. Now, if you already have Nintendo Online, you don't have to pay $50 more. They prorate you, so you just pay the difference of what's left over in your term to upgrade. So you're only paying what needs to be paid for your term extra. That's it. So let's say, I don't know, you are 6 months into your current year. That means you would only need to pay for 6 months of the expansion pack. So if it's $30 more expensive, you'd pay $15. That makes sense? Right. Yeah, that's how they're going to charge you. They're not going to charge you the full price again to upgrade. So that's something to consider, right? Some people may be thinking, oh, I have to buy the whole thing again. You don't have to do that. They prorate you. So you only have to pay the difference.
Very nice.
Yeah. So there's that to consider. And I'll tell you that the lineup for Nintendo 64, like in terms of like just Nintendo 64 stuff, like I've been wanting this for a very long time. I think they're actually handling the Nintendo 64 stuff really, really well. So their opening lineup is 9 games: Mario Kart 64, Ocarina of Time, Star Fox 64, Mario Tennis, Mario 64, Dr. Mario 64, Yoshi's Story. I have no idea what Win Back Covert Operations is, but there you go.
Apparently it's really good. It's just a niche game.
And then I'll give it a try, and maybe I'll end up loving it, right? And then Sin and Punishment, which is a big deal. Sin and Punishment never came out. If you go to the website, it says 2007, while all the other games are like from like the 90s or 2000.
Right.
The reason its publishing date is so much later is because it wasn't localized for the West until Nintendo Wii. So Sin and Punishment came out on the Nintendo Wii Virtual Console for N64. That was the first time it was ever localized, and now they're including it immediately for N64 Online, which I think is really great. Then technically the games are also upscaled to HD, which is nice, and they have online play, which is a big, big deal. We're going to be able to play Star Fox 64 online dogfights. Finally, online Star Fox. We are finally getting it. We're going to be able to play online Mario Kart 64. That's going to be sick. So that's a really good deal, I think. I mean, I'm not talking about pricing. I just mean like it's a good lineup to start, and we know about other games coming, which is very exciting, like Majora's Mask, Banjo-Kazooie. There are other rare games on the way. Now, this is rumor, but the rumor is we, as an entire fan base, are going to be getting more regular updates for Nintendo 64 Online compared to SNES and NES. That's the rumor right now.
We better.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then, that does sort of soften the blow of the price. But we don't know that. Nintendo hasn't given us any official reason to believe that. Right. So I do think Nintendo's going to have to kind of earn the faith of the fan base here. Maybe not everyone's going to buy into the online immediately because of that high price. But then, it's not just N64. It's also Sega Genesis. And Sega Genesis is not as hype as N64 to me. But Sega Genesis is still like, whoa, Sega Genesis, that's some pretty cool stuff there. And it includes games like Golden Axe and Echo the Dolphin and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Some really good games that you may never have played before that are going to be available here. And that's exciting. Yeah. Contra, Castlevania, Phantasy Star.
Some of these games, I believe, have been on the Switch via the Genesis collection.
The Sega Ages, on the eShop. Yeah.
Sega Ages, sorry. But you're essentially getting those with the service, so I guess you could haggle that into the price. And I do think, aren't there some games that were never on Switch before?
I have to assume. Sure. There's quite a lineup there, so I'm gonna assume yes. I don't think Echo the Dolphin or Golden Axe, or at least definitely Echo the Dolphin wasn't. So, and Gunstar, like there's some really good games, some really good classics that are going to be coming to Nintendo Online here. So it does add more value. Not saying it alone is enough, right? Like I don't think I would pay $30 a year for Sega Genesis games. But
no, I would honestly buy a version that didn't have them if it was cheaper. Like I don't really care about them, but if they're going to be there, I'll try them, I guess.
I would consider spending $30 for like a Sega Genesis like mini, right? But so like when you think about it like that, hey, it's not that big a deal. But the problem here is that this is a membership, an annual membership, right? So the initial $30
added, so it's like
the initial $30 is not the problem here. The problem is that there's this expectation that we'll pay this every year moving forward. And then we don't have to. If we see that they're not giving us what we want, we could just drop it, right? But then we lose access to what we have. So it's not like a permanent buy either. So there is that to consider. Like if we don't have faith that they're going to continue to update it to make it feel worth having this annual membership, that's where the issue comes. Because like just a one-time $30 payment for Sega Genesis stuff, I don't think is a big deal. The N64 stuff, like that's cool. Like I would say the N64 stuff, like should be more expensive than an N64 mini, which I think could go for like $100. So it kind of depends on your perspective, right? Like I think what did I pay for SNES mini? $50. So I think N64 would be more valuable there.
I thought they were even like $80.
Maybe you're right.
I'm not sure.
I don't remember how much I spent.
I thought the NES Classic was $80 and the SNES was like $100. I remember the SNES being more expensive.
SNES Classic.
I remember that's
launch
they were saying
price.
They didn't want to make an N64 Classic.
The SNES Classic was initially $80.
Okay.
So yeah, that's more than $50. And the NES was $60. So
it was more expensive, but not quite as much.
All right, so like if the NES Classic was $60, that's that's 2 years of the additional price you have to pay for Nintendo Online, assuming you were doing it for the NES Classic. But the N64 is more valuable than that. Now, granted, the lineup for N64 Classic is only 9 games as opposed to like the 20 or 30 you get. No, you think you get 30 on NES and like 20 on 21 on SNES. So there's that.
SNES,
but they are going to be adding more games, and also
by the end of the lifetime, you'll have way more games than those.
Right, there will be more once everything's said and done. But then also these games are online, have online play. And for some of these for N64 games, that's a big deal. The Sega Genesis games also have online, but there weren't 4-player games. They were 2-player, but there will be online there. So that online play adds more value on top of that. So there's like that. When you kind of like look at it, like you can argue the value, right? But again, it comes down to, for how long are we going to pay this for? Like, how do we feel about having this as an annual thing moving forward indefinitely? That's where the issue kind of comes in. Because, like, at some point, I think it's going to feel like, at first it may seem like a nice deal, like that first year, but then are they going to continue to update it? Are they going to continue to make it appealing? And that's where I feel like they will, because I'm very optimistic about Nintendo, but I know a lot of people aren't, and I understand that, because, you look at NES and SNES, was it fair? Did they handle that correctly? Like, it doesn't leave a lot of people with a lot of hope there. But then when you also consider that you get Happy Home Paradise, which seems kind of random to me, to get that for free, a free DLC pack, it does add value. It's $25, right? Like, the additional price for N64 Online for just individuals is $50. Now, if you do the family thing, it's a lot cheaper, right? Like, you do the family thing, like, it's $10 a year if you get 8 people. Like, that's that's not a lot.
Yeah.
For some people, maybe. I'm not trying, but like it's significantly cheaper is my point. So, I mean,
we might want to get on that. Save us some money.
I might already be on a family plan, but I'll get back to you. Yeah, it's weird, the Happy Home Paradise thing. I guess I will be willing to try out Happy Home Paradise, because I'm going to buy N64 Online. I mean Nintendo Switch Online, because I want N64 Online. Like, I need that, so I'm going to buy it. It's strange, because like it's also like a rental of the DLC, right? Because you only have access to the DLC, or most of there's some elements, there's like a fine print somewhere where you get most there's some things that you would still have, but
which you get. So I read the official statement from Nintendo, and essentially all of the customization options that you unlock, like the lighting, being able to put up walls, changing the size of rooms, things like that, will all still work on your normal island, and any items you brought over, anything like that, they'll all still work.
They don't disappear.
Your villagers won't get trapped on the island. It'll be fine. But you just can't access the island until you either buy the subscription again, or buy the.
You can't go back to Happy Home Paradise.
Right. You just can't access that part, but you can still do all the crazy new customization options that you unlocked for your house on your main island. So, and I think they even allow you now to change your villagers' islands on your main island, which is a big part of the DLC that I forgot, and you can still do that. So the biggest parts of the DLC that affect the main game are all still there.
It's just the side part of it, yeah.
Yeah,
now,
it's just like the side game part is not, which is definitely losing value, but for me, like, the biggest part of that DLC is what I can do on my main island with it.
So, I guess what's interesting here is that now that Nintendo's offering this $50 price tag, assuming you're on the family plan, it's not that far off from what Sony and Microsoft have. I think it's $60 for their annual memberships. So there is a. It's not that far off now, but you look at what PlayStation does, and you get like straight up full. There's some of their AAA games like right there, right? And then you have and looking at Microsoft, there's also Game Pass, which is just games everywhere, $15 a month. That's pretty expensive by comparison. Insane. But
it is way more expensive.
It's interesting because. Now those games, you don't have access to all of them all at once. It's like you get 2 or 3 if you download them, you have them. If you don't, you miss the boat on PlayStation Online. But there's a lot of deals and things of that nature. Basically, I think it comes down to how Nintendo continues to support this moving forward. I think, like, with Nintendo Online, how cheap the price is, like, they added some stuff occasionally. Like the Tetris 99, the Pac-Man 99s, like those are all nice. I wanted more, but also we're not paying that much for it, right? But with this expansion pack, it's a significantly more money. It's more than double. So with that, I'm kind of hoping that this also equates to more consistent releases of content for this. Maybe that does mean some more original games come out on that. You know, they haven't said that. They haven't suggested that, but, you know, maybe, right? Although they might feel bad about the people who just have the base package too. So there's also that to consider. Like, they have to still come up with some things for the base package too. So they got to kind of balance that. There's going to be a balancing act there.
I feel like they're going to come up with the bare minimum possible for the base pack from now on. I really think they're going to focus on the expansion. I think, you know, a good way next year, people want to renew their subscription, just add Game Boy games or Game Boy Advance. Boom. All of a sudden, there's a whole new thing. And they might not do that in just a year. They might do other things in between and maybe wait till 2023 to add a whole new library of games. But that is definitely an option that they have. It didn't take them that long to get SNES on. I think it was it a year later or 2 years later?
I think a year.
Yeah, not that long. So it's not impossible that we could get... Maybe they'll just go the slow route and they'll just put GBA and Game Boy... Or they'll just put Game Boy and Game Boy Color games at first. And then we'll have to wait till 2023 for Game Boy Advance. They might do that. But, I mean, there's going to be something that they add. They're not going to be like, okay, guys, well, it's another year's gone. You want to renew that subscription again? Get Animal Crossing DLC again that you've already probably beaten? Is this a good value to guys? That's not gonna. I don't think that's gonna happen. And we've been talking, and the DMs coming up with several different ideas. I think you came up with them adding possibly Sunbreak DLC. To the service.
Yeah, the Monster Hunter Rise expansion, which is gonna be significant. Like, if that's for free, that's a big deal. They haven't opened up pre-orders for it yet, so I don't think it's too late to add that if they do that. Like, if Nintendo just moving forward just has DLC, paid DLC available through this, that's great. Like, heck, what if at the Game Awards, right, they announce DLC for Metroid Dread, and they're like, oh, expansion pack owners get this for free. Then I'll be like, hey, you know, I'll feel pretty good about it. Like, that I think will be awesome. Like, if they consistently do this. Now, you know, the vibe I get is that it might not be every DLC pack, right? It's going to be certain particular ones.
I would definitely not think it would be even close to most of them.
Yeah, my fear is that Happy Home Paradise is just like a one-off thing, and most of the time they don't. I think it depends. Like, also with Metroid Dread, because it's also for Mercury Steam, like, maybe they want all the DLC proceeds to go more to that project. Or like with Smash, like, it's not all just Nintendo, like Bandai Namco and stuff. Like, it might have to be in-house stuff, which would then mean maybe Sunbreak doesn't. But also, that's a big deal between Nintendo and Capcom. I don't know. Like, it could go either way. I don't know.
Maybe instead we get Breath of the Wild 2 DLC eventually. I guess that would be like 2023's thing.
Better yet, a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe expansion.
Yes, boy.
You can buy it separately, for sure, but you get it for free
so as
a Nintendo expansion pack member.
To make Mario Kart 9 for the next gen system.
Well,
because as great as Mario Kart 8 is, and I think they can do a lot. I think they can make a great game from scratch.
Yeah, man, Brandon, this is like a potential huge segue, because yeah. I feel like I've seen that we've kind of...
There are some points I want to touch on briefly for the online stuff.
Alright, we won't start talking about next gen yet, but that I do feel like they are setting Mario Kart 9 for next gen. What do you want to touch on?
I want to play Devil's Advocate with the N64 games, because they're not everything that they could have been. If you look at the Mario 64 version that's on Switch Online, and you look at Mario 64 that's in the
3D All-Stars
3D All-Stars collection, there are some noticeable improvements in the 3D All-Stars collection version.
Yeah,
namely HD HUD, better filtered textures, and I think that's most of it.
Yeah, I mean, 3D All
and there's a
Mario
couple of
64 is
other, like,
remastered
graphical
for 3D
enhancements.
All Stars, right? Like it's actually remastered.
Right.
These games are just being emulated for N64 Online, basically. Like, I don't know if you can really call them remasters. You know, so that is something to consider. But I didn't really expect every game to get remastered. You know, I think the fact that they just look better through HD and that there's online play for the multiplayer ones, and obviously you have the replay feature, like that's
Would have been nice
enough
for them to go back and, because with emulation, it's not hard to do the remasters. Like, especially if you're Nintendo and you know how the code works.
I mean, you have to
literally
create
just, like,
new
plug
font
in
and
different
stuff,
things.
like the HUD stuff.
Well, it
like
depends.
yeah.
It depends on what they have on hand from when they originally.
I'm just saying, if you can
original
if you
assets
consider
still
every
better.
single game, it's a lot more work. By it's a lot more work compared to what they're already doing with it. That's it's you know.
It's a bit more work. It depends
Yeah.
on the game and the assets and what they want to do. But it would have been nice to see a few of those kind of things cleaned up. But I'm just really just playing devil's advocate here. It's not a huge deal.
You know, another
it
thing
would've
to
been nice
consider here that people have like brought up is that perhaps part of the significant price increase is that there's a lot of, it's not just Nintendo here, right? Like you got the Sega games, but also there's Microsoft games coming to N64 Online. We know we're getting Banjo-Kazooie, but there are others rumored as well. So Microsoft is getting a cut of that. So, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From what Emily Rogers has said, and it's a good thing they brought this up because that actually reminded me about this, is that's exactly what she's saying, is that especially apparently the Sega games, some of them have weird licensing issues, so they had to pay a pretty good amount for them. So apparently, yeah, licensing is a big part of it, which, to be honest, it's like, okay, I would have done without the Sega games, and it be cheaper. Honestly, I think a lot of people assume that Switch Online is this expensive because it has Animal Crossing's DLC in it. I don't think that's the case. I think it has the Animal Crossing DLC in it because they had to charge this much.
Yeah, I think that's just them trying to add more value to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can do that because it's an in-house Nintendo thing, and there's over 30 million Animal Crossing owners, so like they can just do that. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Which is why, you know, maybe we don't see like Sunbreak get DLC. I mean, Sunbreak is a DLC. I just mean like it's not gonna. I don't know if it's added to the expansion pack, right, as a perk. It'd be nice, you know. Be another crazy perk if they're just like what if Splatoon 3 is free to play for expansion pack members? Like that would be nuts.
That'd be wild.
That would be wild.
I could see an expansion for Splatoon 3 coming to the service, like the Octo expansion.
Yeah.
So I could see that a couple years from now. The thing is, like, every good DLC idea I can think of, is like only applicable in like a couple years. I'm trying to think of most things other than Sunbreak that is like a DLC pack I can think of getting into the service that we would know of or would think would be a thing. The Mario Kart thing, that was an interesting one. And if we want to take that little segue, we can now.
Yeah.
But I think Mario Kart is the only other one that I can think of, just like unannounced DLC that could be ready for next year.
Yeah, but I do agree with you that Mario Kart, I don't think they're going to add DLC at this stage, probably not, mainly because I think we're looking at a situation where Next Gen Switch comes out 2023, and I think an ideal launch title for that is a Mario Kart 9. So, just timing. I mean, it could be wrong, right? But I mean, I think we would have gone a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe expansion. We would have gone it already. It came out in 2017. So
It
it's been
just
over
feels
5
like if you
years.
count with it now, it's like, why?
It's been over 5 years. No, no, it's not happening. So basically, and this is not, I don't intend on this being a long topic. We're kind of closing things out now. And then we'll get to the chat before we call it a night. But basically, it's simple stuff, you know. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's just people have been discussing next-gen Switch, saying, oh, well, you know, maybe all these reports have really been for a next-generation Switch as opposed to a mid-gen refresh, and it's just been sort of confused and conflated. Yeah. That's kind of obvious, I feel like. Now, it maybe not be obvious, because I do have a shred of doubt, a shred of consideration that maybe Switch Pro is still real and it comes out next year. And the main reason why I'm like kind of like considering that is because you do see these patents for some form of AI upscaling, which is, you know, the whole DLSS thing, something like that. And you have this report from Eurogamer, I mean, not Eurogamer, Bloomberg. All the Eurogamers corroborate a lot of the reports that there are several developers that have these 4K kits of a Switch of some kind. Like, all that information doesn't, I don't think it's wrong necessarily. I've just assumed that it's maybe meant for next generation hardware. But when you factor that on top of this whole sort of situation for next year, where we're getting Breath of the Wild 2, Splatoon 3, Legends Arceus, Sparks of Hope, Bayonetta 3, a 3D Kirby, the rumored Metroid Prime remake, the rumored Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the rumored Donkey Kong. Like, I'm not saying all of that comes out next year, but most of that's already confirmed for next year. And we're still only in October of 2021. So, you know, it is looking like next year's going to have a really, really strong lineup of games. But something to consider here is that while there has been a trend with a lot of games coming out on new hardware, not all of those games are going to come out when this hardware comes out. Like, I don't think we're seeing this if there's new hardware coming, I don't think it's coming this March. Like, could Nintendo announce something in January and have a quick turnaround for it in March? It's possible, but I think more likely we're looking at a situation where it would come out for the holiday, and maybe it comes out with Breath of the Wild 2. Like, that's possible, but, like, Legends Arceus is coming out in January. 3D Kirby's coming out in spring. Like, a lot of these games will have been out by that point.
Summer.
Right, exactly. So the point is, like, are those games really meant to support the hardware? I'm not so sure, right? I think it's just meant to be, hey, Nintendo's gonna have a killer year.
Yeah.
Not to mention, we already have a post-Nintendo game for March. It's Triangle Strategy. Not saying they can't put 2, they've done that, but I feel like we would have known about more by this point. So I am skeptical that there will be a revision next year, even with those rumors. Especially when you consider that on the Switch, we've waited 2 to 2.5 years for each revision. And the Switch OLED is a price increase. I don't think we're going to have another price increase just a year later. People argue, oh, well, the 3DS had a revision come out every single year. There were 6 revisions. If you look at the timing between each revision, while there was a lot of them, every revision took more than a year. It was a year and a few months. So the suggestion here is that the most expensive Switch variant that would come out over 5 years in the Switch system's life cycle would come out less than a year later when everything has been at least 2 years for Switch so far. I think that's unlikely.
After the first system they've ever increased the price with.
Right, and during a semiconductor shortage.
Right, that's the big thing, because you gotta think, even if 2022 sounded like a good year for them, there's no guarantee that they can get chips.
Yeah.
At this point.
Now, another counter argument is people have noted that the current new docks have the ability to 4K upscale or something, like in theory.
The thing is about the dock is that it has a controller that is HDMI 2.0 compatible, and it comes with an HDMI 2.0 cable, which is capable of 4K 60 output, whereas the 1.4B, or I think that was in the original Switch, could only do 4K at, I think, 24 or 30 FPS. So technically it's allowed for that, but I don't think it's actually enabled, and it's just cheaper to get those parts at this point. Like, almost nothing uses HDMI 1.4 these days. There's just not really much point. Like, HDMI 2.0 isn't even the new one, that's 2.1. So it's just a case, I think, of getting better parts for cheaper, because nothing of it's enabled, and there's no other sort of next-gen looking features in the dock.
I mean, it could be also them future-proofing a little bit, right? Like,
Possible.
we've seen things that the Switch has been technically capable of doing for years, and they don't do anything with it, right? Like, we just got Bluetooth support for earphones,
and we can see why they didn't have it, because the Bluetooth is not great.
Yeah. So I think we're not there yet, but I do think that we are seeing the signs of Nintendo working on hardware, which they are always doing. And I think these reports have just not entirely understood the full picture. It's not that they're lying, they just don't entirely get it. They have some information, and there's a misinterpretation of that information. Something we say here, misinterpretation of information. So the information is correct, it's just they're interpreting that information and portraying it in a way that is not correct. That's what I think. So I do think we are approaching the next generation. We're not there yet. The Switch sales are still thriving. We still haven't had a price drop yet. So, you know, there's going to be...
I might not get one. I honestly don't think we'll get a price drop within the Switch's main life cycle. I think we'll have to wait for the next gen to see a price drop.
I don't know.
Unless we get one next year.
It's tough. Maybe they do a price drop next year with all the games that are coming out next year. Maybe they have next year to try to like make it the peak year, right?
I guess. I don't think they need to, though. I mean, if they were gonna do that, they could have just sold the Switch OLED for $300 and then dropped it down to $250. But maybe they just want to get a little more money than here now. I don't know. At this point, I feel like, why drop it only 1 year before the next gen is coming out? You can just drop it when the next system comes out.
Maybe they price drop in preparation for the next gen.
That's true. That's a good point.
So, like, they price drop next holiday. You know? I think if they wait a year to price drop Switch OLED, that's not a big deal. They drop everything $50. Or maybe they even phase out base Switch by that point. You know? They discontinue it. And it's just Switch OLED at $300 and Switch Lite at $150. And then come the year after, they come out with this other price SKU. That's like the Switch 2 at $400 or something. I don't know. Although I have a hard time believing they would come out with a system at $400. I feel like I think $300 is like the sweet spot. I don't know. Maybe $350.
I don't think that they can come out with the next gen Switch for just $300. I'm gonna be honest.
And maybe that's why it's a bit of a transitional period, though, right? Maybe they still plan on supporting Switch, and it's a lot of cross releases for a couple of years.
Oh, it will. It surely will be.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it's going to be backwards and forwards compatibility for a long time.
Yeah, forwards compatibility. Yeah.
Now, what do you think? Have you seen Nate the Hate's video? His video about the next gen Switch coming a holiday 2022 or early 2023.
What did he say? I didn't get the chance to watch the whole podcast yet, actually. I started it, but I didn't get a chance to finish it.
So I watched the whole thing, and kind of the major points for me was that I think he corroborated the report that dev kits are being sent out, and that they were being sent out as to bigger developers in 2020 and smaller developers in 2021 is what he's saying. And that they're being told to get their games complete by I think December or something, like holiday 2022, in preparation for 2023 release, or an early 2023 release of the system. That way they know that they had those games ready for launch, so have it done around that time so that they can go gold.
Well, if they come out at the beginning of 2023, that's a 6 year 6 years after the original release of the Switch.
Right.
I can kind of see that. I'm kind of expecting holiday 2023, which is 8 months later. 7 months later. Something like that.
In amount of months.
8 months later. November. I'm expecting like a November release. But maybe they could do it October, like Switch OLED, right? Like, I don't know. So yeah, like I'm expecting like 6 to 8 months after that. But
yeah,
that just the reason I think that is I don't think Nintendo wants to release their hardware at the beginning of the year. They did that because that's when they were able to at the time with Switch. I think same thing with Breath of the Wild. Like, people assume, oh, Nintendo loves releasing Zelda games in March. They did it because of the circumstances then. They would have wanted to come out for ideally they would have wanted Switch and Breath of the Wild to come out holiday 2016. That's what they would have wanted. So I don't think, I mean, I'm not saying that they can't get away with a March, where they can. They've shown that it works. But I don't think that's necessarily their ideal time to do it. They would prefer to have it come out for Christmas and Black Friday, like, obviously. So, you know, yeah, I don't think they're targeting a early 2023 release. I think they're targeting a holiday release. So it's either holiday 2022 or holiday 2023 or even beyond that. Now, if circumstances change, like let's say they're targeting holiday 2022 and they can't make quite the cut, so they push to March 2020, you know, holiday 2022 to March 2023. Like
I think that was part of it.
Okay.
I'm not like quoting the man here.
Yeah.
I do think that was part of it, though, that there was also a possibility it would come in holiday 2022.
I don't believe that, because I don't see Nintendo. I don't see them doing that soon after Switch OLED. I don't believe that.
The only reason I would even see that is if that they wanted to come out with the Switch OLED, get some more money off of it, and then phase it out for the normal Switch. I could, if they're just gonna phase out the normal Switch and keep the OLED as the base Switch essentially, then I could see why they would have done that, so that they could, you know, come out, be like, hey, here's a more expensive model, get a little bit of money before the next year, get people a premium version of the Switch so that they have a nice version of that base model available, and then just move on to the next gen next year. But honestly, I don't think so.
Yeah. It's tricky. I don't think Nintendo really needs to be in a rush, because Switch systems are still selling. I can't find a Switch OLED anywhere. I can't buy one. I want to buy one now. I can't buy one now. So, like, I don't think there's really any rush. Sales are strong. Like, typically with next generation systems, we see Nintendo's last year it being pretty poor in terms of sales and software releases. I have a feeling that Nintendo's gonna do more of a seamless transition this time. So, you know, I'm not saying that we're gonna have to wait till the Switch is just dying to you know, get upgraded, right?
Right. I think that's actually a bad move by companies in general.
Yeah, but also, like, that I think is indicative that we're not that far away, because I do think there's going to be a transitional period. But I also think that it's not, like, right around the corner either, because there's not that much of a need to do it then either. I think holiday 2023 is what I'm sticking with. I think that's the time. I think that's when we see Metroid Prime 4 come out. I think it's going to be a cross-gen release, even though initially I didn't want it to be. But now I think it'll be fine, because the main reason why I didn't want Metroid Prime 4 to be a cross-gen release was just because I wanted Metroid to have an opportunity to be successful solely on Switch, which was a big deal. But thanks to Metroid Dread, Metroid has now established a whole new audience. And I think they're going to build upon that with the Prime remake, and then in 2023 with Prime 4, hopefully, you know, coming out on every Switch variant platform, successor or whatever, like it's just gonna do well. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I kind of feel it's very interesting what I like how they're gonna market the next gen Switch, because I doubt that they're gonna call it Switch 2. I'm very curious what they will brand it as.
So
if they'll
an
actually
interesting
brand it as a
interesting
next gen
point.
system, or if they won't.
An interesting point. So I remember I had debates with people about a year or so ago, because there was a lot of rumors. Maybe it wasn't a year, but a while ago, about the rumored name for this Switch Pro, and there was this rumor of a Super Switch, Super Nintendo Switch. And people were like, oh, this is the rumor name. It makes so much sense and so cool. And I was telling people, nope, that's not going to be it, because Super suggests next generation. If this is a mid-gen refresh, this will not be called Super Switch. That would be misleading. Based off Nintendo's history of naming their hardware, that would not work. But now that it's no longer really being assumed that it's a mid-gen refresh, but a successor, now I will say Super Switch actually makes a lot of sense. Super Switch is actually something we've discussed in the past as a likely name for a successor. So, yeah, I think that actually could be it. Yeah.
I wonder if they'll just call it Switch 4K. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Could be.
For marketing purposes only, I think Switch 4K is actually the best name that they could come up with. Even if it's a next generation Switch, because I have a feeling that the next generation Switch will be very blurred lines of what that actually even means. Because, I mean, with the Switch...
Because if it's forwards and backwards compatible...
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume not every... I don't think every game will come, and I think there will be a lot of third-party exclusives, for example. And maybe at the end of the generation, some first-party ones. But I think we're going to see a huge cross-generation part, and it's... Unless they just want to completely break away from the Switch, I don't know. I have a feeling that it will be similar, just because.
I mean, if they just do Switch 2 though, it'll be very simple, and it's something they can just continue. Like they could do Switch 3 and Switch 4, and they'll be fine for many, many years. You know?
Yeah. I just don't feel like they'll do that.
Right, because they haven't done it before, but
right.
I think they've struck an appropriate formula now. Like I think they have the formula for success. Before they were kind of like always coming with a different idea. I don't think they need to come with a different idea now. I think they just need to pretty much improve.
Oh yeah.
They want to maintain what they got right now, you know. So I think it makes sense for them to do the iPhone route. Like at first, when iPhone was first being done, it was like this revolutionary, innovative sort of experiment, right? But once it was proven that it was going to be a massive success, what did Apple do? And as opposed to like innovating like crazy and trying something wacky and new for something different, they're like, no, here's the next iPhone 2, iPhone 3, iPhone 4, iPhone 5, iPhone 6, like because they know it's gonna sell, like they're just riding that success, like they should. I don't think Nintendo. I just from a business perspective, it doesn't make sense to like experiment too much with that. You know what I mean? Like if you know it's gonna work, don't not do
they
it.
Just need to make a better version of the Switch, and we'll all be happy.
Yeah, like if they call it Switch 2, people are gonna understand it's the successor. Like it's just very clear, right? I think Super Switch will still work, but to the mainstream person who doesn't understand gaming history, they may need to work a little harder with the marketing there. But it'll be really cool, right? It'll be really cool. And Nintendo seems a little bit more willing to be cool now. I mean, heck, we just got Metroid Dread. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Switch Advance, ASAP Bro, I saw what you said in the chat. Like, that's also indicative of a next generation hardware. So, I wouldn't say no to that. But again, what do they do after Switch Advance? Or after Super Switch, right? Like, what do they do with their next piece of hardware? Do they call it Super Duper Switch? Do they call it Switch Ultra Advance?
Technology will have evolved in ways we aren't even taking into consideration. If they make something that's another type of Switch, but it's so different that it actually warrants a different name.
Yeah, maybe they don't need to be that forward thinking, because they'll figure it out when they get to it, right? Maybe. Yeah, ASAP Bro just said Switch 64, except this time instead of being 64 bits, it'll be 64 gigaflops, or teraflops.
64 gigaflops would be abysmal.
Teraflops.
Teraflops would be insane.
Right?
That's like 6 Xbox Series X's almost.
Right, but we're talking about the next generation, so, you know.
True. Who knows?
Yeah. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think we're pretty much done for the night, though. Is there anything else you want to address, Brandon?
No, I'm just, excited to see what's happening with this new Switch. I just want them to announce it eventually, or give me some more rumors that I can actually, see what they're doing with this system. Specs-wise, that's what I'm really curious. I'm wondering what kind of chipsets they're going to put in there. Because the one thing that makes me also think that the Switch 2 isn't right around the corner is we haven't gotten the leaked SoC or anything like that. No leaked SoC, which could possibly indicate that it's not on the horizon, or it might just be that there's absolutely no compatibility with the original Switch firmware at all.
But if we believe the rumor,
an entirely new OS.
If we believe the rumor, we're at least a year away still, right? Maybe a year and a half. I think we're more like 2 years away, but.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, like, how soon do we usually get those leaked SoCs?
I think, like a year and a half to a year and a half before they launch, right? That's typically when we were seeing like the Switch Lite, and then we saw the Switch. When we saw the Switch Lite and the Switch, the battery life model, I think we saw those chips like a year before or so. So yeah, we shouldn't have seen them by now if it's like holiday 2023.
We should have?
Should have not.
Okay.
We still have to wait for those, but I'm very curious.
Okay. Well, I have no idea what's gonna happen for the rest of the week. We didn't even talk about the Pokemon thing, but I might put a video tomorrow talking about that. We may have more information on that for next week's podcast, which I plan to do on Sunday, just for the record. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, guys, thanks for coming by on a random Tuesday evening. I'm glad you guys still watched. So leave a like, share the discussion. But it was good. It was good. Oh, okay. I'll check a couple chats here. All right. Taker610 provided a super chat. Thank you. PlayStation has proven number generation work. Yeah, I mean exactly. Yeah, like what are they gonna call the next PlayStation? PS6. And people are gonna get it. So that's why I think if Nintendo just did Switch 1, 2, 3, 4, yes, it would take away from their originality. But like, they can be original with their games. They can be original with like certain like UI improvements or little gimmicks or innovations with their hardware, but they don't have to have a weird, wacky name every time. I think the messaging and marketing could be far more clear, and then you just call it Switch 2, and people will get it. People will move on. People will progress and advance their technology. The same way people feel like, they need to always upgrade their iPhones every couple years. People feel like, okay, well, it's time to upgrade my Switch. Like, I think that's just what you got to do to maintain the success. Enjoy, CJ. We've already proven that we'll buy the same games over and over. Us fans deserve better. Noah 45 Kings. Handheld and console development are together at Nintendo, right? So they can contribute to the Switch naming. Yeah. Super Switch Advance. There you go. Both of them. Yeah. Nintendo Love Girl. What coffee menus do you want to be on Brewster's Cafe? I'm not a big coffee guy myself. Brandon, do you have anything to add there? Are you a coffee guy?
I love coffee, but I'm not like a connoisseur. I don't understand all the special flavored coffee. Like I go when I buy a vanilla dark roast, and that's about my knowledge.
I do like those mocha frappes from Starbucks.
Yeah, those are barely coffee. It's more like ice cream flavored like coffee.
Yeah, that's why I like it.
I don't want to shame anybody. They're good.
Yeah, that's why I like it. It's delicious. Joy CJ, I low-key want them to call it the Switch NX. What if?
That's funny.
Yeah, Super Chris, the Wii U coming on in 2012 was just bad timing on Nintendo's part. I do think that they probably it would have benefited by coming out 2011. That would have made a difference. But also, they didn't even have software really ready by 2012. So if it came out 2011, it would have been even worse. But imagine if Skyward Sword HD came out 2011. Imagine if Skyward Sword HD came out 2011. Like, they just had did a cross release there, and it was in HD on the Wii U. That would have made a difference.
I think it would have made a bit of a difference, but I think Skyward Sword at the time had a very negative reception to it. So I don't think an HD version of the game on the Wii U would have really did that well amongst people who aren't hardcore Nintendo fans, which already bought the Wii U. So I don't know. Because everybody wanted to play Skyrim and crap on Skyward Sword. That was kind of the thing back then.
I know, but if Skyward Sword was in HD, it might have helped a little bit.
Maybe a little.
A little, not a lot. Not a lot.
I mean, on the Wii U, you could already play Skyward Sword, so pretty much just like getting a patch to let it have higher resolution. I guess it's really the main. I mean,
the Wii U didn't do well. Period. I'm just saying.
No.
Like I don't. If it came out in 2011, I'm not saying the Wii U would have been like an incredible success. I'm just saying it would have been in a slightly better position. I think because it would have had 2 years of being a system comparable to the PS3 and 360, where there would have been a bit more third-party support there. So it wouldn't have been as quickly dwarfed by PS4 and Xbox One. But again, Nintendo just didn't have software to back up the Wii U, even in 2012. So, you know, Nintendo wasn't ready for HD development. It's just that simple. They weren't ready. They weren't ready for HD developments. They were way behind in that way. They no longer had the mainstream casual audience. They moved on to phones and things of that nature. And the marketing for Wii was just terrible. It was just really bad.
I hate the commercials.
In part because I think they misread the market.
It made you feel embarrassed to be a Nintendo fan.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that the Nintendo kind of, in a way, abandoned their core audience, and they were just trying to retain the casual mainstream audience on Wii, but they were gone. So that's what happened. Like, they were trying to do that when their actual audience was just the core fans, which they bought the Wii U, even though, you know, the people who bought the Wii were hardcore loyal Nintendo fans. They weren't fans of the Wii necessarily. That's saying you couldn't have been a fan. I was a fan of the Wii, right? Although if I think about like my favorite games, my favorite piece of hardware from Nintendo, I don't know if I'll put the Wii that high in the list.
I would put the Wii pretty low. As far as how it did, it sold really well.
Yeah.
That was a terrible.
Well, it was a cool piece of technology, though. Like they did some interesting things. It was the first like dedicated online Nintendo system. They had the Wii Connect 24. That blue light was cool. They finally were using proper discs. It was a very sleek design.
Nintendo with weak hardware, even more kiddie games than they used to be associated with. Like, it was like casual. It was very just overall just bad look for Nintendo. It was not a forward-looking decision. It just didn't have a market that could stay. It's just bad. It was just bad. It was good at the time, and in every other context, it was bad.
It'd be interesting to compare the exclusives, or Nintendo published games plus exclusives for each generation. See how they sort of rank. I say Nintendo published games plus exclusives because, for example, if we just said exclusives, then we wouldn't be able to count things like Twilight Princess HD, right? And I think Twilight Princess HD, not HD, but just Twilight Princess, I think that should be considered as a valuable aspect for game for both the GameCube and Wii lineups, right? But like, it'd be interesting to kind of consider what, you know, like just looking at the lineups for each piece of hardware and seeing like how we kind of favor them, like which has a better lineup, right? Because I feel like GameCube and N64, I look upon those lineups more fondly than the Wii lineup.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I mean, the Wii had some good games. It's not. Don't get me wrong. Excite Truck, Twilight Princess, Mario Galaxy, Galaxy 2, Prime 3, No More Heroes 1 and 2, Xenoblade Chronicles, Donkey Kong Country Returns, technically Skyward Sword. No, there was good games. Don't get me wrong. But GameCube also had a stellar lineup, and as did N64. So that's a whole other discussion for another day. We're not gonna do that now. Actually, maybe we could do that. That could be like a fun little recording we could do for later this week. But well, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to check out Brandon's channel. It's linked in the description below, or just check out his Twitter. WhataboutNodnarb. Yeah, we'll see you later. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.